Chapter 30-23. The Devouring Emperor? Is this really the place where a great emperor fell? Ling Zhao's eyes flickered. However, he had never heard of such a devouring emperor in the immortal world. Perhaps the devouring emperor had existed for a very long time. The 4 words on the stone tablet were drawn with iron hooks and silver, sharp and unparalleled, as if they were carved with a sword. They contained a peerless sword essence that was endlessly growing. When Ling Zhao saw those 4 words, he could feel a majestic sword will surging. It was as though he could see a mysterious figure in the endless void. With a single slash of his sword, he could break through the heavens and destroy the demons. To be able to survive for so long and still grow endlessly, it was extremely terrifying. It was as if the sword essence could destroy one's spiritual soul. It must have been a Sword Dao Great Emperor. Could it be that a Sword Dao Great Emperor fought with the Devouring Emperor, which led to the Devouring Emperor's fall? I wonder where the Devouring Emperor's body is. Ling Zhao thought to himself, speculating about the scene back then. In the distance, there was a strange vibration that sounded like a heartbeat, causing the surrounding void to tremble. Ling Zhao stepped forward and walked into the distance. What's that? Ling Zhao's eyes flickered. He saw that in the distant void, hundreds of millions of sword qi intertwined and formed an incomparably vast sword domain. In the sword territory, there was a bright red heart that was the size of a mountain. It emitted dazzling immortal light and was surrounded by auspicious qi. At the same time, it emitted an extremely terrifying devouring power, forming a huge black vortex that was similar to the devouring territory. There seemed to be a strange balance between the sword territory and the devouring territory. However, Ling Zhao discovered that the heart actually seemed to be alive. It was beating rhythmically, and with every beat, a powerful devouring force would be emitted. Then, it would devour boundless life force from the endless void. The forest of life can devour the vitality of living beings. Could it be because of this heart? This is the heart of the devouring emperor? Ling Zhao muttered to himself as a look of understanding appeared in his eyes. The sword territory and the devouring territory in the void both emitted powerful extreme emperor aura. This was clearly the power left behind by the 2 devouring emperors. Even though so many years had passed, the power of the extreme Dao still existed. From the heart, Ling Zhao felt an incomparably strong vitality, as well as the origin of the devouring great path. This should be the heart of the devouring emperor. Initially, it should have been destroyed by that peerless sword qi. However, for some unknown reason it was preserved. Furthermore, it was growing stronger as it continued to devour life force. If this continues, perhaps the devouring emperor will really be reborn? Ling Zhao thought to himself. The life essence in that heart was too majestic. Every time it beat, the surrounding heaven and earth would resonate. It was mysterious and unfathomable. Ling Zhao did not go near it recklessly. If there was still the remnant soul of the devouring emperor within that heart, things would get really interesting. Wang. However, at this moment, a black beam of light shot out from the heart. It contained extremely pure power of the soul, and was extremely powerful. It immediately shot towards Ling Zhao's forehead. It was an immortal art that attacked the primordial spirit. It contained an aura that could annihilate everything. This attack was powerful enough to kill a high immortal. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed. He did not expect that the heart would actually attack him. There was indeed something fishy. Perhaps the devouring emperor was still alive. Boom. Ling Zhao's forehead shone brightly. His indestructible primordial spirit was intertwined with 12 types of great Dao origins. It sat cross-legged in the void and exuded an aura that was invincible. When the black beam of light shot over, Ling Zhao's indestructible primordial spirit pointed at it, and instantly destroyed the black beam of light. Devouring Emperor, since you're still alive, why don't you show yourself? Ling Zhao's eyes flashed sharply as he stared at the heart and said slowly. However, the heart continued to beat rhythmically, but there was no response. Trying to mystify things. Since you've attacked me, don't blame me for being impolite. Ling Zhao said coldly. Swoosh. A sharp sword light shot out. Ling Zhao held the immortal culling sword in his hand, and exuded a vast murderous aura. He then slashed down at the heart. The immortal culling sword shone brightly, and expanded violently in the void. In an instant, It turned into a sword aura that was 10,000 feet long. Rumble. The fierce sword domain seemed to be alarmed by the aura of the immortal slaying sword, and instantly became chaotic. Hundreds of millions of streaks of sword chi shot toward the heart from all directions. The sword aura formed by the immortal culling sword was stunning to the extreme. It lit up the void as if it could break through everything. The heart finally moved as if it felt the immense pressure from the immortal culling sword. Boom! The black devouring vortex surged and revealed the devouring great Tao origin. Majestic blood chi rose like a huge wave and instantly shrouded the sword chi that filled the sky. The heart spewed out blazing immortal light like the rising sun, and instantly erupted with a force that was like a tsunami. The sword chi that filled the sky shattered, and was turned into nothingness by the devouring vortex. A powerful devouring divine light shot up into the sky and collided with the immortal culling sword. In an instant, hundreds of millions of blazing divine lights were released and swept out in all directions like a storm. A member of the God clan? Damn it! Blood chi rose from the heart, and the figure of a middle-aged man in a black robe appeared. He was tall and seemed to be able to support the heaven and earth. He contained endless power and exuded an invincible aura. However, his figure was incomparably illusory, as if it would shatter at any time. His eyes were incomparably cold. At this moment, he looked at Ling Xiao with a trace of intense killing intent. You are the devouring emperor? There is indeed a remnant soul. Do you want to end it yourself, or do you want me to send you on your way? Ling Xiao's eyes glinted as he sneered. The devouring emperor was indeed not dead. Or rather, he was not completely dead. The immortal demon grotto had existed for countless years, and was known as the place of the Emperor War. No one knew how many eras had passed since then. The devouring emperor should be someone from the ancient times. Moreover, the devouring emperor was a member of the immortal clan. Perhaps it was more appropriate to call him the devouring immortal emperor. During the Emperor War, the devouring immortal emperor was slain by a sword emperor, and only his heart was left. No one knew how many years had passed before a remnant soul gradually condensed. However, even if it was a remnant soul, it was still the remnant soul of a great emperor. Although Ling Xiao did not show it on the surface, he was extremely vigilant in his heart. A member of the God clan deserves to die. The remnant soul said coldly. His eyes were filled with monstrous killing intent. Chapter 30-24. Ling Xiao felt that there was something wrong with the remnant soul. It seemed to have no spiritual intelligence, and was repeating the same sentence mechanically. Boom. The remnant soul was like a bolt of lightning, sweeping across the sky at an extremely fast speed. Even though it was only the remnant soul of a great emperor, it still contained an incomparably majestic power. As it rushed towards him, Ling Xiao felt his primordial spirit tremble. God clan, you deserve to die. The remnant soul repeated the sentence again, and then directly charged towards Ling Xiao's primordial spirit. Monstrous killing intent surged. He actually wanted to possess Ling Xiao. You're courting death. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with killing intent, and in an instant, a terrifying aura erupted from his body. Without hesitation, he activated the wordless heavenly book in his primordial spirit. At the same time, the creation jade disc appeared and suppressed the remnant soul. Boom. The moment the remnant soul entered Ling Xiao's primordial spirit, the wordless heavenly book and the creation jade disc suppressed it at the same time. The remnant soul trembled violently, and a powerful devouring origin erupted, as if it wanted to swallow the wordless heavenly book and the creation jade disc into its body. However, the wordless heavenly book shone brightly. With the support of the wordless heavenly book, Ling Xiao activated the heaven-devouring secret skill, and the vast heaven-devouring divine world appeared. The heaven-devouring fire merged with the seven-colored celestial lotus fire, and instantly enveloped the remnant soul. Refine! Ling Xiao shouted, and used the wordless heavenly book and the creation jade disc to suppress the remnant soul. At the same time, he used the heaven-devouring fire to trap the remnant soul, intending to refine it completely. Ling Xiao could feel that although the remnant soul of the devouring immortal emperor was still there, for some reason, it had become like a puppet, and had lost its consciousness. Although it still maintained a strong hostility towards the God clan, and even wanted to kill Ling Xiao as soon as it appeared, it was still trapped by Ling Xiao. With 2 chaos treasures, even the remnant soul of the devouring immortal emperor could not escape. Ah, God clan, you all deserve to die. The remnant soul struggled violently, and endless flames rose around it. Its face was distorted, and its figure became more and more illusory. Although he still retained a portion of his strength and his enmity towards the Protoss, he was easily trapped by Ling Xiao because he did not have his own consciousness. Under the support of the 2 chaotic treasures, the soul fragment was refined into nothingness very quickly. Only a few fragments of the soul remained, which fused into Ling Xiao's soul. Immortal Emperor Devour was killed by a sword emperor of the divine race. No wonder you have such strong enmity towards the god race. Ling Xiao slowly opened his eyes. There was a hint of surprise in his eyes. He had obtained part of the remnant soul's memory fragments. He saw that Immortal Emperor Devour had died at the hands of a sword emperor of the celestial race. However, he did not know who the sword emperor was or what had happened to him. Immortal Emperor Devour had died countless years ago. Back then, his heart was torn apart and filled with the sword emperor's sword Dao origin power. However, Immortal Emperor Devour cultivated the devouring Dao. The Dao fruit condensed from this Dao was in his heart. Because the Dao fruit of the devouring Dao did not shatter, it had formed a strange forest of life over the countless years. It could devour endless vitality. Immortal Emperor Devour's heart had gradually recovered over the countless years. Then his incomplete spirit condensed into a remnant soul. Unfortunately, the remnant soul did not have any consciousness. It was like a puppet. Otherwise, if the remnant soul of a great emperor had its own consciousness, it could cause a lot of trouble for Ling Xiao. Even if he had 2 chaotic treasures, it would still be difficult to deal with it. Rumble. Above the void, endless sword chi rose. The heart trembled. In an instant, the sword chi left marks on it like a spider web. It looked as if it would shatter at any time. Without the remnant soul's control, the heart could not withstand the surrounding sword intent. Oh no. Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat. He instantly leaped up and pounced on the heart. At the same time, sword chi rose around him. He summoned the immortal culling sword and slashed at the surrounding sword domain. Ling Xiao knew from the remnant soul's memory fragments that the heart contained the devouring Dao fruit. He was overjoyed. He must obtain the Dao fruit. As long as he obtained the Dao fruit of the devouring Dao, Ling Xiao's heaven-devouring secret skill would be able to advance further, allowing him to directly comprehend the origin of the devouring Dao. The Dao fruit was the most precious treasure left behind by Immortal Emperor Devour. Whoosh! Ling Xiao's figure was like a bolt of lightning, rushing into the heart in an instant. The boundless sword chi around the heart cut a large number of cracks. The majestic vitality in the heart began to dissipate. It was the life origin accumulated by Immortal Emperor Devour's heart for countless years. Ling Xiao felt extremely distressed. However, the most important thing was still the Dao fruit. Ling Xiao had no time to feel distressed about the life origin. He could only use the heaven-devouring secret skill to devour the majestic life origin in the heart while quickly searching for the Dao fruit. It's here. All of a sudden, Ling Xiao's eyes glittered as he caught sight of a black crystal in front of him. It was translucent and mysterious, surrounded by strange vortexes that seemed to be the source of all the life force quintessence. Ling Xiao practically confirmed in an instant that this black crystal was the Devour Dao fruit. Boom! Ling Xiao did not hesitate at all. He instantly used the heaven-devouring secret skill. The vast heaven-devouring sacred domain appeared around him and shrouded the black crystal. There was no repulsion at all. After all, the heaven-devouring secret skill was an origin secret skill that contained the power of the devouring Dao. At this moment, it was extremely easy to merge with the black crystal. Almost instantly, Ling Xiao fell into a state of Dao comprehension. In his sea of consciousness, his primordial spirit bloomed with boundless light. The original 12 types of Dao origin vibrated at this moment. The 13th type of Dao origin gradually condensed. Devouring Dao origin. The aura around Ling Xiao was extremely violent. The heaven-devouring sacred domain erupted with an extremely terrifying devouring power, shrouding all the life origin in the heart. Even the heaven-devouring sacred domain expanded violently, shrouding the endless sword domain outside the heart. There was nothing it could not refine. This was the terrifying part of the devouring Tao. The devouring Tao could refine and devour all the worlds, billions of living beings and countless treasures. Even other great Tao origins could be devoured. After fusing with the Tao fruit left behind by the devouring immortal emperor, Ling Zhao's heaven-devouring secret skill finally reached perfection and condensed in origin. Ling Zhao sat cross-legged in the void, surrounded by an extremely terrifying devouring vortex. Whether it was the devouring immortal emperor's heart or the sword emperor's boundless sword qi, they were all devoured by him. Even the surrounding void trembled violently. It was as though this ancient space was about to be completely devoured by Ling Zhao. Ling Zhao's aura grew stronger and stronger. The life origin that had been accumulated for countless years after devouring the immortal emperor's heart had all become a part of Ling Zhao's body, causing his cultivation to begin to skyrocket. Chapter 30-25. Outside the relic. Wu Xingqian, the holy son of the true martial immortal sect, returned to the valley. His face was cold and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. Following him were 3 young men and women with extraordinary auras. They were the holy son of the All-Kate immortal sect, Ren Tianjue, the holy son of the Yin-Yang immortal sect, Dongfang Bai, and the holy son of the Kunlun immortal sect, Xueqing. Wu Xingqian, are you sure this is the place where the devouring immortal emperor died? Ren Tianjue, the holy son of the All-Kate immortal sect, looked at the valley and asked doubtfully. Wu Xingqian, although Lei Ling's cultivation is only at the first heaven of the monarch immortal realm, his combat strength is extremely strong. Even your true martial immortal sect was annihilated. We have to be careful. Feng Qingxue looked around warily and said slowly, what are you afraid of? With the 4 of us here, let alone a mere Lei Ling, we can even fight Tai Yuan from the Tai Yi immortal sect. According to what Wu Xingqian said, Lei Ling must have already entered the historical remains. Should we go in directly and catch a turtle in a jar? Dongfang Bai said with a faint smile. Although he was a man, he was extremely handsome and wore a woman's dress. He spoke coyly and with a shrill voice. It was very awkward to listen to. Ren Tianjue and Feng Qingxue were very calm on the surface, but they quietly distanced themselves from Dongfang Bai. Brothers, I don't think we should act rashly. If we enter the relic rashly, no one knows what dangers there will be. Most of the inheritance and treasures of the devouring immortal emperor must have fallen into Lei Ling's hands. Why don't we ambush him in this valley and kill him when he comes out? Wu Xingqian said with a ruthless look in his eyes. His hatred for Ling Zhao had reached its peak. Although the true martial immortal sect was not the strongest among the 9 immortal sects, it could be ranked in the middle. They did not expect Ling Zhao to kill more than a dozen monarch immortal disciples as soon as they entered the immortal demon cave. Now Wu Xingqian was the only one left. Therefore he was very unwilling to give up. Even though he had escaped, he found 3 experts to help him and wanted to ambush Ling Zhao here. Ambush in this valley? Sure. I have a 4 symbol sky formation here. It's a treasure left behind by an immortal emperor in the antiquity times. However, it requires 4 supreme emperor weapons to suppress it. Once you enter the formation, even an expert at the 5th or 6th heaven of the immortal monarch realm will die. Ren Tianjue's eyes flickered as he sneered coldly. 4 symbols heaven subduing formation? Brother Ren is actually willing to take out such a treasure? Don't worry, Brother Ren. After we kill Lei Ling and obtain his treasures, we will definitely compensate you. Wu Xingqian was overjoyed and quickly said. The 4 of them were saints and saintesses of the immortal sects. This time around, they knew that the immortal demon cave was extremely dangerous. Therefore, they had brought along extreme Dao monarch weapons to protect themselves. However, Wu Xingqian had seen how powerful Ling Zhao was. Even with 3 helpers he still felt uneasy. But after hearing about the 4 symbols heaven subduing diagram, he no longer had any misgivings. The 4 symbols heaven subduing diagram was famous in the immortal world. It contained a formation world. If an extreme Dao monarch weapon was used to suppress it, it could kill all experts below the Great Emperor realm. However, the 4 symbols heaven subduing diagram in Ren Tianjue's hands was probably incomplete. But it was enough to deal with Lei Ling. Brother Wu, you don't have to be so polite. I will fight Lei Ling to the death. Does this traitor and scum of the immortal tribe really think that he can be arrogant in front of me just because he has joined the deity tribe? Today, I will kill him and get rid of this evil for the immortal tribe. Ren Tianjue sneered coldly. Outside the immortal demon cave, he was defeated by Ling Xiao with a single punch. This was a great humiliation to him. He could only use Ling Xiao's life and blood to wash away this humiliation. Great! With the 4 symbols heaven subduing diagram, Lei Ling will definitely die. Wu Xingchen said confidently. Dong Fengbai and Fang Qingxue naturally had no objections. With the 4 symbols heaven subduing diagram, they were even more confident in this battle. Rumble! Ren Tianjue's palm shone brightly, and an ancient diagram appeared. In an instant, it soared into the sky and covered the sky, shrouding the entire valley. The void distorted and overlapped. Billions of starlight gathered as if it was brewing an unparalleled killing intent. Without hesitation, the 4 of them took out their apex emperor weapons and hid them in the 4 symbols heaven subduing diagram. With a flash, the 4 of them completely disappeared without a trace. The valley quickly regained its peace as if nothing had happened. However, no one would have thought that there was a supreme killing formation here, waiting for Ling Xiao to leave the ruins. In the ruins, Ling Xiao had completely refined the devouring Dao fruit. His devouring secret skill had also broken through from the complete realm and condensed the devouring origin, becoming a true origin source secret skill. Currently, Ling Xiao possessed 13 origin source secret skills. Ling Xiao realized that after these origin source secret skills evolved into the Great Dao origin, they became supreme treasure skills like Emperor techniques. It was as if they had undergone a sublimation and metamorphosis. Moreover, Ling Xiao could create his own supreme superpower based on these origin source secret skills. Ling Xiao could feel that these 13 origin source secret skills were extremely powerful and could merge with each other. This was the power of the origin source fusion, which could unleash a power that was hundreds or thousands of times stronger. When Ling Xiao was in the mortal realm, he had already begun to experiment with the power of the origin source secret skills. Now Ling Xiao realized that this was the fusion of the Great Dao, and also the resonance of the origin source. Although the devouring secret skill was only the 14th celestial dipper secret skill, and was not even in the 12 sky techniques, Ling Xiao realized that the devouring secret skill was the most suitable secret skill for him to complete the origin source fusion. With the devouring Dao fruit, Ling Xiao could use the devouring origin source as the foundation to continuously merge with the 12 great Dao origins. Once the fusion was completed, it would unleash an unparalleled power that could destroy heaven and earth. Rumor has it that the pinnacle of the Dao can be called an emperor. However, a great Dao has an end, while the myriad Daos in the heavens are endless. Perhaps the great Dao fusion is the most suitable path for me. Ling Xiao slowly opened his eyes, revealing a trace of enlightenment. When an Empyrean powerhouse comprehended the great Dao origin, they could step into the Imperial Emperor realm. And the Imperial Emperor realm's 9 heavens was a process of constantly comprehending the great Dao, fusing the great Dao, and using the great Dao. If a great Dao could reach the peak, and then form one's own Dao, that would be the true Dao validation. Validating the Dao and becoming an emperor. Chapter 30:26. Although many imperial emperors spent their lives comprehending the great Dao of heaven and earth and comprehending the great Dao origin, it was too difficult for them to reach the peak of a Dao. Many imperial monarchs had merely comprehended a type of grand Dao quintessence, because this was their fundamental Dao. There were people like Ling Xiao who comprehended so many great Dao origins in one go. However, in the end their cultivation did not improve at all, and completely stagnated. Ling Xiao could feel that if he maintained the state of 13 great Dao origins, he would not be able to break through to the second heaven of Imperial Emperor realm. Unless he could completely integrate the 13 great Dao origins, he would be able to use the great Dao origins to refine his physical body, and form an origin body to break through to the second heaven. Therefore, the devouring heavenly origin was Ling Xiao's greatest opportunity. The devouring immortal emperor's heart has accumulated the devouring life origin for hundreds of millions of years. Now that I have devoured all of it, This energy is enough for me to break through to the second heaven of Imperial Emperor realm. Therefore, what I need to do next in the Immortal Demon Cave is to continuously integrate the Great Tao origins. Ling Xiao muttered to himself as a look of understanding appeared in his eyes. His body was filled with boundless life origin. It was the purest energy left behind by the devouring Immortal Emperor. Now it was all devoured and refined by Ling Xiao. However, the energy did not become a part of Ling Xiao's cultivation. Instead, it was accumulated in his body, waiting for the day when it would be unleashed. It's a pity that the devouring Immortal Emperor's extreme Tao Emperor weapon was not left behind. It seems like it was completely destroyed in that battle. Ling Xiao said slowly with a trace of pity in his eyes. He could feel that the devouring Immortal Emperor was extremely powerful. Moreover, from the devouring Tao fruit, he could see that the devouring Immortal Emperor might have walked on the second Great Tao. An ordinary Great Emperor could not be compared to him. The devouring Immortal Emperor's extreme Tao Emperor weapon must be extremely powerful. Perhaps there was more than one extreme Tao Emperor weapon. However, Ling Xiao did not discover anything in this ruin. It's time to leave. Ling Xiao muttered to himself. Being able to obtain the devouring Tao fruit was already his greatest gain. Before Ling Xiao left the ruin, his gaze fell on the stone tablet. The words devouring emperor on the stone tablet still emitted a monstrous sword intent. With a thought, Ling Xiao put away the stone steel as well. Perhaps it would be useful in the future. After putting away the stone tablet, the space of the ruins was empty, and there was nothing left. Moreover, without the support of the Sword Realm and the Devouring Realm, the space would collapse soon. At that time, both Sword Emperor and Immortal Emperor Devour's last trace in this world would be completely erased. Ling Xiao sighed in his heart. Even if one was an Emperor Realm expert, no matter how peerless and invincible he would still be buried by time. Even the great emperors couldn't afford to be immature. The path to immortality was long and difficult. I still have a long way to go. Ling Xiao muttered to himself before taking a step forward and leaving the ruins. Outside, it was still the same valley. Nothing had changed. The forest of life was still lush and full of vitality. Even the strange devouring power was still there. Who are you? Come out. A light flashed in Ling Xiao's eyes as he said indifferently. Although the valley looked very real and even simulated everything that had happened before Ling Xiao entered the ruin, the people who were lying in ambush outside had no idea what had happened inside the ruin. They also did not know that the devouring Tao fruit had been refined by Ling Xiao. Logically speaking, the forest of life outside should not have such rich vitality. Even the strange devouring power should have disappeared long ago. However, the scene in front of them was very abnormal. Rumble. As soon as the sound of Ling Xiao's voice faded, the surrounding space started to twist and distort. Blazing light soared up, and celestial light lingered around. It was as if numerous resplendent stars were converging. Heaven and earth turned upside down, and a peerless killing intent was brewing. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The four-symbol sky formation instantly revealed its true appearance. Wu Xingqian and the other three appeared in the void, and were surrounded by bright starlight. Their faces were cold, and their eyes were filled with cold murderous intent. Lei Ling, you are very perceptive. However, you will definitely die today. Wu Xingqian sneered. Roar, roar. The roar of a dragon and a tiger shook the sky. Above the four of them, endless starlight gathered. It was dazzling and instantly formed the shadows of four ancient sacred beasts. Azure Dragon, White Tiger, Vermilion Bird and Black Tortoise. They were very different from the five sacred beasts of the demon world. These were creatures that had once appeared in the immortal world. They were extremely ancient, and contained unparalleled power. At this moment, under the support of the four-symbol sky formation, the shadows of the four sacred beasts were formed. They almost merged with Wu Xingqian and the other three, causing their aura to skyrocket. Wu Xingqian, Ren Tianjue, Dongfeng Bai and Fang Qingxue? The saints and saintesses of the four major immortal sects are all here. You guys have really put in a lot of effort to deal with me. However, it's good that I don't have to kill you one by one. Today you will die. Ling Xiao said coldly. Being in the four-symbol sky formation, he did not seem to care at all. His eyes were filled with strong fighting spirit and confidence. It was as if the four people in front of him were already in his bag. Arrogant. You're courting death. Kill him, and the inheritance of a mortal emperor-devourer will be ours. You still dare to speak so arrogantly when you're about to die? Kill. Wu Xingqian, Ren Tianjue, and the others yelled coldly. The murderous intent in their eyes was so strong that it almost materialized. Bang! Terrifying auras rose from their bodies, and in an instant, they exploded with powerful energy and charged toward Ling Xiao. The four of them were the peerless geniuses of their respective immortal sects. They had all cultivated the supreme immortal arts of their respective immortal sects. They did not hold back at all as they unleashed their strongest attacks. True Martial Emperor Fist. Zhou Tian's Starfall Immortal Art. Yin Yang Millstone. Infinite Destructive Immortal Light. The four supreme immortal arts burst out at the same time. Like four brilliant immortal light torrents, they pressed down on Ling Xiao. The power was so strong that it seemed like it could destroy everything. Good timing. Ling Xiao's eyes were filled with fighting spirit. His blood and qi surged like a vast ocean. Blazing divine light burst out and turned into a peerless fist seal that swept across the sky. It was the pure strength of his flesh. Ling Xiao unleashed all the strength of his physical body, wantonly and unhindered, causing this punch to be extremely domineering. Before the fist arrived, the fist intent had already filled the entire sky. It was as if an ancient ancestor god had appeared. He was billions of zhang tall. Every move he made was enough to destroy the stars and suppress the universe. He was unbeatable. Wu Xingqian and the others felt a terrifying aura surging toward them. Even their primordial spirits were trembling vigorously. P.S. I caught a cold yesterday and had a terrible headache, so I can't update. I'll make up for it first. There are 2 more chapters tonight. Chapter 30-27. Crack. The peerless fist intent alone caused the stars in the sky to fall. The starlight was destroyed, and the billions of stars formed by Zhou Tian's Starfall Immortal Art shattered at the same time. The fist imprint swept over. The figure formed by the true martial emperor fist was like the true martial emperor, but when it collided with Ling Xiao's fist imprint, it was instantly destroyed. The Yin Yang Great Millstone in the void and the dazzling destructive immortal light were all annihilated by the punch. Boom. Wu Xingqian and the other 3 felt their bodies tremble, and the void around them shook violently. They were sent flying, and their eyes were filled with shock. You dare to kill me with just your strength? Ling Xiao's voice was as loud as a bell, and it shook people's souls. His aura was majestic, and 3,000 worlds surrounded him. As he stepped forward, the blazing immortal light around him was destroyed. He strode forward, holding the invincible fist imprint. His eyes were like lightning, and his hair fluttered in the wind as he charged toward Wu Xingqian and the other 3. The Four Guardian Sky Formation was formed by the 4 Supreme Emperor weapons as the foundation, and the 4 Sacred Beasts were formed to support Wu Xingqian and the other 3, giving them the supreme divine power of the 4 Sacred Beasts. Moreover, the Four Guardian Sky Formation could overturn the universe, destroy the stars, and create a destructive force. Not only could it trap people, but it could also kill people. Even an immortal monarch expert would lose all senses within the 4 divisions heaven-subduing formation, and be obliterated by the destructive force. However, Ling Xiao was different. He unleashed the strongest primordial immortal body, and the chaotic divine bone on his chest released chaotic light, making him invincible. No matter what kind of killing intent he encountered, he charged forward with his physical body. The Four Guardian Sky Formation could not break through his defense at all. Ling Xiao only stared at Wu Xingqian and the other 3. His fist imprint was domineering, and it was invincible. Wu Xingqian and the other 3 felt a huge pressure coming toward them, as if there was no way to avoid it. It felt as if Ling Xiao was the master of the Four Guardian Sky Formation, and he was suppressing them. Kill. Wu Xingqian's face was extremely ugly. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he roared. Above his head, a white tiger divine beast roared and pounced towards Ling Xiao. The huge white tiger exuded an ancient and savage aura. It was as if the white tiger holy beast had descended into the world. It exuded an endless amount of Gengjin baleful qi. Rumble. Ling Zhao's fist was invincible. The primal chaos fist seal collided with the white tiger saint beast. Unexpectedly, the sound of metal clashing could be heard. Boundless baleful qi surged, wanting to envelop Ling Zhao. However, no matter how strong the white tiger holy beast was, it was still no match for Ling Zhao's fist and exploded. The four symbols heaven subduing formation diagram shone brightly. After the white tiger holy beast was destroyed, it condensed once again. The four sacred beasts of the four sacred beasts were immortal existences within the four sacred beasts of the four sacred beasts formation. Soon after, other than the white tiger sacred beast, the green dragon sacred beast, and the other three sacred beasts also pounced at Sumo. Their auras were extremely terrifying. Their powers seemed to be connected together, forming an absolute kill zone. Don't hold back. Go all out and kill Lei Ling. A cold light flashed across Ren Tianjue's eyes as an ancient mirror appeared in his palm. The Alcade mirror could illuminate 3,000 worlds and transform into millions of stars. It could form an Alcade destruction zone that could destroy everything. The Alcade mirror shone brightly. It was as if millions of stars had emerged from it. It swept across the sky and suppressed Ren Tianjue. Kill. Wu Xingqian, Dongfeng Bai, and Feng Qingshue's eyes turned solemn. They roared and took out their three extreme Dao Emperor weapons. True Force Sword. Yin-Yang Cauldron. Kunlun Zither. The three extreme Dao Emperor weapons shone brightly. The four symbols heaven subduing formation diagram's power was pushed to the extreme. Other than the four sacred beasts, the four saints charged at Ling Zhao with their extreme Dao Emperor weapons. Their extreme Dao Emperor auras surged like the sea and intertwined to form a terrifying land of destruction. They were going to kill Ling Zhao. Ling Zhao's physical body was too strong. It was so strong that they felt fear in their hearts. The more this was the case, the stronger their killing intent towards Ling Zhao. No matter what, they could not let Ling Zhao escape. Otherwise, they would be in big trouble. Four extreme Dao Emperor weapons? You guys have really put in a lot of effort to kill me. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he sneered. The terrifying killing intent around him instantly surged. Although his primordial immortal body was extremely strong, it could not withstand the power of the extreme Dao Emperor weapons. The four extreme Dao Emperor weapons made Ling Zhao feel threatened. Only the extreme Dao Emperor weapons could deal with the extreme Dao Emperor weapons. Clang. The immortal culling sword shone brightly. In an instant, Ling Zhao grasped it in his hand and slashed it down from the sky. The bodies of the four saint beasts that were fighting with him trembled as they were sliced into two halves by his sword, exploding into pieces in the void. Ling Zhao leapt into the air. With a swing of his sword, he shattered the destructive light from the Alcade mirror before violently clashing with the True Force sword. Boom! Immortal light burst forth. The divine light was dazzling. The Yin-Yang Cauldron expanded like a mountain and pressed down on Ling Zhao from the sky. Ding dong ding dong, Feng Qingshue's clothes fluttered like a fairy. The Kunlun Zither floated in front of her. As her slender fingers stroked it, a strange sound wave was heard and shrouded Ling Zhao. Kunlun Requiem. This was a supreme immortal technique that worked in tandem with the Kunlun Zither. It could affect one's mind and reach the depths of one's primordial spirit. It was the strongest primordial spirit attack. Ling Zhao held the immortal culling sword and clashed with the True Force sword. He then pointed his sword at the Yin-Yang Cauldron. However, at this moment, the strange sound of the zither was heard. Ling Zhao's primordial spirit trembled slightly and showed signs of dissipating. Divine light flashed in Ling Zhao's eyes, and the wordless heavenly book emitted an ancient and mysterious light. The 13 origins of the Great Path appeared around his primordial spirit, and the sound wave was instantly swallowed up by the sky-swallowing secret technique. After the sky-devouring secret technique formed the sky-devouring origin, it could devour everything. Even the primordial spirit attack of the Kunlun Requiem could be devoured. However, Ling Zhao hesitated for a moment. His immortal culling sword trembled slightly, and the Yin-Yang Cauldron came down on him, sending him flying. Kill! Wu Xingqian and the other three's eyes lit up. Seeing that Ling Zhao was finally showing signs of defeat, they were instantly energized. They all held their extreme Dao Emperor weapons and charged at Ling Xiao. The 4 extreme Dao Emperor weapons intertwined. The terrifying power could annihilate everything, and it was impossible to defend against. They all planned to kill Ling Xiao in one go. The sound of the Kunlun zither became more hurried. Strange sound waves swept across the sky and shrouded Ling Xiao's entire body. They kept moving towards the depths of his primordial spirit. Feng Qingshua's face was cold and her eyes were filled with murderous intent. The Kunlun zither combined with the Kunlun requiem was a supreme primordial spirit attack that no one could block. As for Wu Xingqian and the other 2, they unleashed the strongest power of their extreme Dao Emperor weapons and attacked from all directions. Almost instantly, Ling Xiao was surrounded and attacked by the 4 of them. Chapter 30-28. Rumble. Ling Xiao's eyes flickered with a bright light. The blazing vital energy and blood around him rose, and a terrifying murderous aura emanated from him. He unleashed the great immortal slaughter technique, and formed a slaughter domain around him. Every time he struck out with the immortal slaughter sword, he could destroy everything with unparalleled power. As for the Kunlun zither and Kunlun requiem, although they were extremely strange and attacked Ling Xiao's primordial spirit directly, they were all neutralized by his devouring heaven secret skill. Ling Xiao held the immortal slaughter sword and faced Wu Xingqian, Ren Tianjue and Dongfeng Bai. Sword light flashed in all directions and sword chi shadows appeared in the void. Every time the extreme Dao Emperor weapons clashed, it would trigger billions of divine lights. Rumble. In the 4-symbol sky formation, the extreme Dao Emperor weapons swept across the void with extreme sharpness. The extreme Dao Emperor aura gushed out and shrouded Ling Xiao, Wu Xingqian and the others. Kill. Ling Xiao's eyes were indifferent as he pushed the immortal slaughter sword to the extreme. When it clashed with the true force sword, an unparalleled divine power erupted and sent Wu Xingqian flying. The yin-yang cauldron flew across the sky with yin and yang qi intertwined. The mouth of the cauldron seemed to contain a yin-yang realm that could absorb everything and destroy everything. Ling Xiao came with his sword and slashed out thousands of times in an instant. The sword qi shrouded the yin-yang cauldron, and the sound of metal clashing could be heard. In the end, the yin-yang cauldron was sent flying. Dongfeng Bai's body shook violently as his eyes were filled with horror. He had never thought that his cultivation was higher than Ling Xiao's, and he had an extreme Dao Emperor weapon. However, he was still at a disadvantage and was suppressed by Ling Xiao. Rumble. The light beams that shot out from the Alcade mirror were annihilated and quickly disintegrated in the slaughter domain around Ling Xiao. They could not even touch Ling Xiao's physical body. Ling Xiao held the immortal slaughter sword in one hand, and performed an unparalleled fist print with the other. The vast fist will filled the heavens and earth, and every punch contained the power to shatter everything. Wu Xingqian, Dongfeng Bai, and Ren Tianjue were all trembling as their blood boiled. Their faces turned pale. Ling Xiao's attacks were too fierce and overbearing. Although the 3 of them were powerful and had 3 extreme Dao Monarch weapons, they were unable to suppress Ling Xiao at all. Instead, Ling Xiao was getting stronger and stronger. The immortal slaughtering sword, the true force sword, the Alcade mirror, and the yin-yang cauldron were entangled with each other. Each of their attacks unleashed an unparalleled radiance that swept across the void. Ling Xiao's entire body was surrounded by chaotic energy. The primordial immortal body was pushed to the extreme by him, and his entire body emitted an incomparably domineering aura. He chased after the stars and the moon. The immortal culling sword knocked away the true force sword. Unparalleled chaotic fist seals pressed down, causing Wu Xingqian's expression to change drastically. He felt that the void around him was filled with fist will, and he actually felt that there was no way to avoid it. Damn it! Wu Xingqian's face was pale, and he wanted to move away. However, he was unable to dodge Ling Xiao's punch. Boom! Wu Xingqian's body shook violently. His true martial emperor fist was annihilated. This fist landed on his chest, causing him to tremble all over. He was directly sent flying. Puff! He coughed up blood violently, and his eyes were filled with shock. Lei Ling, don't be so arrogant! Ren Tianjue shouted loudly. The Alcade mirror in his hand shone with boundless light. Beams of light pierced through the void, intertwining to form a deadly domain. and enveloped Lei Ling break. Devour! Ling Xiao roared. The immortal culling sword instantly split into hundreds of millions of swords in the void, and met the beams of light head-on. All of them were annihilated at the same time. Rumble! Ling Xiao's entire body erupted with an imposing aura. He had pushed the heaven-devouring secret skill to the extreme. Chaotic light gushed out from his body, and a vast devouring vortex appeared. The devouring vortex rapidly expanded in the void. The surging immortal light and the powerful forces that intertwined in the sky were all devoured by Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao seemed to have transformed into an ancient ferocious beast. He charged forward as if he did not care about Wu Xingqian and the other three at all. Clang! The yin-yang cauldron trembled violently and was sent flying. Dongfang Bai's chest had been slashed by Ling Xiao's sword, and his blood was a mess. His entire body was pulled toward the devouring vortex, as if he was going to be devoured completely. Bang! The notes of the Kunlun Requiem came to an abrupt end. Ling Xiao's fist landed on the Kunlun zither, causing the zither to emit a blazing light. Feng Qingxue was hit by the huge recoil and was sent flying. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. Rumble! Ling Xiao took large strides like a shooting star, moving unhindered like a bolt of lightning. No one was his match. Wu Xingqian and Ren Tianjue were instantly enveloped by the fist prints that filled the sky. They roared angrily, but there was no way for them to resist. The huge fist prints landed on their chests, causing their chests to cave in. They spat out mouthfuls of blood, and their faces turned extremely pale. Crack! The terrifying devouring power around Ling Xiao grew stronger and stronger. In the end, even the Four Guardians' sky formation was directly torn apart. His body contained the power to destroy the heavens and earth. The four holy suns were actually so weak in front of him. Kill! Ling Xiao pointed his finger at Wu Xingqian. His finger radiance pierced through everything and headed for Wu Xingqian's forehead. It contained the power of great destruction. The finger radiance pierced through the void. It contained the power of time origin, causing Wu Xingqian to tremble. The time around him seemed to have frozen. His eyes were filled with terror as he felt the threat of death looming over him. Get lost! Wu Xingqian roared. He burned the essence blood in his body, trying to dodge Ling Xiao's finger. Puff! However, Ling Xiao's finger not only contained the power of his physical body, but also the Supreme Emperor technique of the Flowing Time Emperor, time-destroying finger. The sharp finger radiance instantly pierced through Wu Xingqian's forehead and landed on his indestructible primordial spirit. Bang! Wu Xingqian's indestructible primordial spirit shattered. Ling Xiao grabbed at the air and pulled out a strange Dao fruit from Wu Xingqian's indestructible primordial spirit. It was the Dao fruit of true martial great path's origin. Ling Xiao had forcibly extracted it. Boom! Wu Xingqian's body was torn apart. His entire body exploded in the void. Not even his bones were left. His soul was scattered. Ling Xiao merged the Dao fruit into his primordial spirit's sea of consciousness. He then used the sky-devouring secret skill to refine it. He's the first. All of you must die. Ling Xiao sneered. His voice was like thunder, shaking the souls of those who heard it. Ren Tianjue, Dongfang Bai, and Feng Qingxue's expressions changed drastically. Their eyes were filled with terror. Wu Xingqian, the saint of true martial immortal sect, was killed by Ling Xiao just like that? Something big was about to happen. Chapter 30-29. What Wu Xingqian cultivated was the true martial great Dao. He had comprehended the origin of the true martial great Dao. The true martial great Dao was to enter the immortal Dao through the martial Dao. It contained countless martial arts techniques and countless martial Dao insights. It contained the most fundamental martial Dao consciousness. After Ling Xiao devoured the fruit of the true martial way, a torrent of information immediately surged into his mind. Countless martial comprehensions merged with his soul. True martial emperor fist, myriad Dao killing fist, imperial tyrant fist, sovereign descends the world, myriad sword art, heavenly blade slash. Ling Xiao sensed countless powerful martial Dao divine abilities and comprehensions. These were Wu Xingqian's lifetime of martial Dao comprehension. He had entered the immortal Dao from the martial Dao and achieved the true martial great Dao, forming the true martial Dao fruit. Ling Xiao could feel that Wu Xingqian's strength was indeed very strong. This was a peerless genius who was born for the martial Tao. He had an incomparably strong fighting instinct. He had killed his way out from being a weakling, and finally became the saint son of the true martial immortal sect. He was even nurtured as the future patriarch of the true martial immortal sect. It could be said that as long as Wu Xingqian did not die, he would definitely become a peerless immortal monarch in the future. He would be able to control the true martial immortal sect and become a supreme expert of his generation. Unfortunately, the gap between him and Ling Xiao was too great. Although he was 2 small realms higher than Ling Xiao, Ling Xiao's primordial immortal body and chaotic divine bone were so powerful that it made people feel hopeless. Other than an extreme Tao Emperor weapon, ordinary immortal weapons would not be able to cause any harm to Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao's physical body was invincible. It had already formed a suppressive force. Even though Ling Xiao had yet to condense his source body, his fist intent had already reached the point of being engulfed. It was as vast as the sea, as if the great emperor had come back to life, covering the sky and covering the earth. Wu Xingqian could not even take a single punch from him. Therefore, even though Wu Xingqian was very strong, he still died in the hands of Ling Xiao. 1. The Zhen Wu sword trembled slightly and emitted a blazing light. Extreme Emperor's aura gushed out of the void. In an instant, it broke through the void and left the celestial demon grotto. Wu Xingqian was not the master of the True Force sword. After his death, the True Force sword would naturally return to its true master. Ling Xiao did not stop him. With his current cultivation, he was not strong enough to forcefully snatch the Supreme Emperor weapon and erase the original owner's imprint. Ling Xiao's gaze was incomparably sharp. His body contained an extremely terrifying power. Especially after devouring the Zhen Wu fruit, his battle instincts had become even stronger. Due to Wu Xingqian's death, Ren Tianjue, Dong Fengbai and Feng Qingshue's faces were extremely pale. Their eyes were filled with horror. Ling Xiao's powerful pressure covered the sky and covered the earth, causing their minds to tremble. They had almost lost the will to fight. Wu Xingqian is already dead. Lei Ling is too ruthless and has already turned into a demon. Let's go and ask senior brother Taiyuan to come and slay this demon. Ren Tianjue gritted his teeth. He instantly soared into the sky and chose to escape. Dong Fengbai and Feng Qingshue's expressions changed as well. After hearing Ren Tianjue's words, they no longer hesitated and chose to flee in all directions. Kill. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with murderous intent. He let out a thunderous roar and took a step forward. In an instant, he was tens of thousands of feet away as he charged towards Ren Tianjue. Feeling the terrifying murderous intent behind him, Ren Tianjue's expression changed drastically. He was about to curse in his heart. That bastard Lei Ling did not chase after Dong Fengbai and Feng Qingxue. Instead, he focused all his attention on Ren Tianjue. In particular, Ren Tianjue felt that Ling Xiao's speed was even faster than his. The distance between the two of them was constantly being pulled closer. Lei Ling, get out of my way! Ren Tianjue shouted in exasperation. Boom! The alcade mirror in his hand bloomed with boundless light. Auspicious qi rose and thousands of rays of immortal light intertwined and shot towards Ling Xiao. He did not expect to kill Ling Xiao. He only hoped to slow down Ling Xiao's speed. Clang! The immortal slaying sword shone with unparalleled light. Rays of sword qi traversed the void. Ling Xiao held the immortal slaying sword and attacked the rays of light. At the same time, he did not slow down and continued to chase after Ren Tianjue. Ren Tianjue, take my punch! Ling Xiao's speed suddenly increased. In an instant, he was within 100,000 feet of Ren Tianjue. Then he threw out a punch. A majestic fist essence gushed out. The chaotic divine bone in front of Ling Xiao's chest spewed out chaotic light. His punch was infused with the power of the chaotic secret skill. It was as if it could split the heavens and earth apart. It instantly enveloped Ren Tianjue. There was no way to avoid this punch. Ren Tianjue was so angry that he was about to vomit blood. His eyes were filled with shock and anger. He did not dare to take Ling Xiao's punch head-on. The alcade mirror in his hand instantly soared into the sky and met Ling Xiao's punch head-on. Crack! The void shook violently. Ling Xiao's punch landed on the alcade mirror. This was the first time Ling Xiao had used his bare hands to fight against an extreme Dao Emperor weapon. The rays of light that shot out from the alcade mirror were extremely terrifying. They instantly tore his flesh and blood apart. His fist was badly mutilated, revealing his crystal-clear bones. Clang! Ling Xiao's bones let out a buzzing sound. There was an immortal glow that rippled out. It was extremely mysterious. Although his flesh and blood could not withstand the power of the alcade mirror, his bones were extremely sturdy. Even the alcade mirror could not destroy them. The unparalleled fist essence exploded. The peerless punch that was infused with the chaotic secret skill seemed to be able to destroy everything. It caused the alcade mirror to tremble slightly before it was sent flying. An extreme Dao Emperor weapon is only SOSO. Ling Xiao's eyes were filled with an extremely powerful fighting spirit. His aura became more and more terrifying. Ren Tianjue's face was filled with cold sweat. He became extremely pale, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. What did he just see? Lei Ling actually used his flesh and blood to fight against an extreme Dao Emperor weapon. How was this possible? The last bit of fighting spirit in Ren Tianjue's heart disappeared. He instantly burned his life force and increased his speed. He wanted to escape. He did not want to see Lei Ling again. It was too terrifying. However, Ling Xiao did not plan to let him go. He also used the shifting secret skill. It was as if he was shuttling through the void. The surrounding scene became extremely illusory. The distance between him and Ren Tianjue was rapidly shortened. The four saints were the peerless sky prides of the immortal sex. Each of them was extremely powerful, and had all sorts of trump cards. If Ling Xiao had not taken them by surprise and unleashed his ultimate power to kill Wu Xingqian in the Four Guardian Sky formation, it would be difficult to kill the four of them, especially when they were focused on escaping. Ling Xiao could not kill Ren Tianjue, Dong Fengbai, and Fang Qingxue. He could only choose to kill one of them. Ren Tianjue was naturally the best choice. Chapter 30. Lei Ling, why are you always going against me? Dong Fengbai and Fang Qingxue are so weak. Why don't you go after them? Ren Tianjue roared at Ling Xiao as he shifted frantically. Damn it, Ling Xiao. Why should I chase after you? Of course, it's because we have a grudge. Ling Xiao sneered. His eyes were as cold as steel. He was determined to kill Ren Tianjue. Ha ha. Ren Tianjue should be cultivating the Star Dao. I already have 14 Dao fruits. The 9 major immortal sects represent 9 Dao fruits. This is the best opportunity for me to obtain Dao fruits. Therefore, I'll kill all these immortals in the Immortal Demon Grotto. Ling Xiao thought to himself. Ever since his devouring secret technique condensed the devouring Dao fruit, Ling Xiao had discovered his own path, the path of Dao fusion. The stronger the Dao fusion and the more Dao fruits he fused, the stronger his strength would be. If he could eventually fuse the 3000 Dao fusion, Ling Xiao would definitely embark on a supreme path that no one had ever taken before. When Ling Xiao was refining the devouring immortal emperor's Dao fruit, he had sensed the aura of several other Dao fruits. Perhaps, immortal emperor devouring had also embarked on this path. However, the devouring Dao was only one of the 3000 Dao fusion. It was a heaven-defying act to fuse the devouring Dao with other Dao origins. However, Ling Xiao was different. He had the wordless heavenly book and the creation jade disc. These 2 chaos treasures contain the secrets of heaven and earth. The creation jade disc in particular was said to contain 3000 Dao fusion. With these 2 treasures, Ling Xiao could devour other Dao fruits without any scruples. However, others could not. Therefore, Ling Xiao's path was destined to be different from others. This was a peerless path that could sweep away all enemies. Crack! Bolts of lightning flashed around Ling Xiao's body. It was as if there was an endless amount of lightning gathering around him. He slammed his palm out in the air, and the sky and earth turned upside down. Billions of bolts of lightning gathered to form a peerless heavenly punishment force that pressed down on Ren Tianjue. Heavenly Punishment Secret Technique. After comprehending the Heavenly Punishment origin, and condensing the Heavenly Punishment Dao fruit, the Heavenly Punishment secret arts could truly shine. This attack was not inferior to a Supreme Monarch art at all. Ren Tianjue's expression changed greatly. He spat out a mouthful of blood essence on the alcade mirror, causing it to shine brightly. It instantly soared into the sky and blocked the heavenly punishment. Boom! Boundless divine light bloomed, and a vast heavenly might erupted, causing the alcade mirror to tremble violently. Even Ren Tianjue, who was controlling the alcade mirror, trembled violently and slowed down. In the next moment, Ling Xiao rapidly approached Ren Tianjue and threw a punch at him. Damn it! Ren Tianjue was shocked and furious at the same time. He felt his scalp going numb as he knew that he wouldn't be able to block Ling Xiao's punch with his own strength. Thus, he quickly recalled the alcade mirror to block Ling Xiao's punch. Clang! Sword Qi hummed as the immortal culling sword unleashed boundless sword Qi. It instantly traversed the void, pierced through the world, and slashed at the alcade mirror. The collision of the two extreme Dao Emperor weapons instantly set off a storm. Terrifying extreme Dao Emperor aura spread out, as if it could shatter everything. Ling Xiao's punch was also ruthlessly thrown at Ren Tianjue. Crack! Ren Tianjue roared furiously as he unleashed all of his strength to block the attack. However, a crisp sound was heard as Ling Xiao's punch directly blasted Ren Tianjue's arms apart. Then, without losing any momentum, the punch landed on Ren Tianjue's chest. Boom! Ren Tianjue's body burst out with dazzling immortal light as he was sent flying. Dense cracks like a spider web appeared on his body. Before Ren Tianjue could do anything, Ling Xiao came across the sky again and pointed at Ren Tianjue's glabella. Secret Spacetime Technique. Age Extinguishing Finger. The two supreme treasure techniques burst forth. Ling Xiao seemed to have transformed into a supreme emperor who could control time and space. His eyes were extremely cold as an invincible aura gushed out from his body. Ren Tianjue's eyes were filled with horror as the surrounding time and space seemed to have frozen. He could only watch as Ling Xiao's finger touched the space between his eyebrows. Puff! Bloody light filled the air. The sharp finger radiance contained a vitality that could destroy everything, causing Ren Tianjue's entire body to explode. Even the indestructible primordial spirit in his sea of consciousness was unable to escape. It was directly shattered. Ling Xiao reached out and grabbed a dazzling Dao fruit that was filled with starlight from Ren Tianjue's head. The star Dao fruit that was stained with blood looked dazzling and dreamy as if countless stars were twinkling and converging into a dazzling galaxy. It is indeed the star Dao fruit. Ling Xiao took a deep breath as his eyes shone brightly. Boom! An incomparably powerful devouring force erupted from his body. A vortex of devouring appeared between his eyebrows. Ling Xiao sent the star Dao fruit into his forehead, and it was immediately devoured. Then he began to slowly refine it. The Alcade Immortal sect originally walked the great Dao of stars. Legend had it that they had obtained the orthodoxy of an ancient Alcade great emperor. That was how the Alcade Immortal sect came into existence today. In addition to the great Dao of stars, there were many other minor Daos in the Alcade Immortal sect. They were all branches of the great Dao of stars. Only by condensing the star Dao fruit could one become the saint of the Alcade Immortal sect. For example, although Ren Xiaoyao's cultivation was only at the first heaven of the immortal monarch realm, he had condensed the star Dao fruit and became the saint of the Alcade Immortal sect just like Ren Tianjue. Now that Ren Tianjue had been killed by Ling Xiao, the star Dao fruit had also fallen into his hands. This is the 15th Dao fruit. Next, let's start the slaughter. Ling Xiao's eyes shone brightly as he exuded a majestic fighting spirit. Boom! The surrounding Zhoutian shook and the mountains shook. Countless birds and beasts in the forest were alarmed and fled into the distance. Ling Xiao chased after Ren Tianjue and unknowingly left the forest of life. After Ren Tianjue's death, the Alcade mirror naturally broke through the boundary and left. After devouring the star Dao fruit, Ling Xiao began to spread his divine consciousness and flew into the distance, searching for traces of the immortals. This immortal demon great meat was originally a slaughter meat, a battle between the immortals and the immortals. In the past, the immortals and immortals who came out of the immortal demon grotto could be said to be less than 1 in 100. It was extremely tragic, and most of the people who died were from the immortals. Now that Ling Xiao had entered the immortal demon grotto, he naturally wanted to change the immortals' previous state and help them win this battle. From now on, he would hunt down the immortals. Whoosh! Ling Xiao was like a bolt of lightning, instantly soaring into the sky. He did not conceal his aura. Dazzling divine light burst out and swept across the void, causing countless demonic beasts and powerful birds to avoid Ling Xiao. Although those demonic beasts did not have intelligence, they had powerful instincts and could sense that Ling Xiao was not to be trifled with. Therefore, Ling Xiao became the overlord of this world. However, what Ling Xiao did not know was that his killing of Wu Xingqian and Ren Tianjue had caused a powerful storm outside the immortal demon grotto. Chapter 30-31. Outside the immortal demon cave. Qi Lin, the supreme elder of the true martial immortal sect, looked gloomy and his eyes were filled with killing intent. In front of him, 16 of the life tokens representing the 60 disciples of the true martial immortal sect were shattered. These 16 life tokens represented the 16 disciples of the true martial immortal sect, which meant that all 16 disciples of the true martial immortal sect were dead. Most importantly, the life token of the Holy Sun, Wu Xingqian, was among them. Wu Xingqian was also dead. The true martial sword trembled slightly and flew back to Qi Lin. This was the supreme emperor weapon that the true martial immortal sect had given to Wu Xingqian for self-defense. Who is it? Who killed Wu Xingqian? Qi Lin's hair and beard stood on end as the fury in his eyes seemed to be on the verge of bursting out. An extremely terrifying aura erupted from his body, causing the surrounding space to tremble. Qi Lin was a genuine high-level immortal duke. Although he had yet to reach the level of a supreme immortal duke, his strength was already extremely terrifying. Everyone looked at Qi Lin with eyes full of sympathy. No one had expected the true martial immortal sect to be in such a miserable state. They had just entered the immortal demon cave for less than a day and so many experts had already fallen. Wu Xingqian and all the disciples of the immortal lords had fallen. The remaining people were just small fries. This meant that the true martial immortal sect was likely to be wiped out. Gu Tongtian, was it Lei Ling from the ancient god sect who did it? Among the 6 major divine sects, only he has the strength to kill Wu Xingqian. Qi Lin's body trembled as he looked at Gu Tongtian, and asked in a cold voice. Gu Tongtian's expression was indifferent and calm. After hearing Qi Lin's words he said flatly, "In the immortal demon cave, it's up to fate. Either you live or you die. Let's not talk about whether Lei Ling killed Wu Xingqian. Even if he did, so what? If Lei Ling killed Wu Xingqian, the true martial immortal sect will not let him go." Qi Lin roared. He felt like his heart was bleeding. He didn't know how to explain this to the sect leader. If the other disciples died, then so be it. But Wu Xingqian was a peerless genius who had comprehended the true martial great Tao. He was the focus of the true martial immortal sect. If he died in the immortal devil cave, it would be a huge blow to the true martial immortal sect. Fellow Taoist Qi, calm down. That Lei Ling is truly vicious. I think it's very likely that he killed Wu Xingqian. However, he's in the immortal demon cave right now. We can't do anything to him. Everything will be clear once he gets out of the cave. The All-Cade Immortal Sect's Fecta Immortal Lord smiled and advised. The Fecta Immortal Monarch was a refined middle-aged man. He wore a starry Taoist robe and had a slender figure. His temperament was otherworldly, and there was a faint smile on his face. His cultivation base was also at the high-level Immortal Monarch realm. The 60 life tokens in front of him were all intact. This meant that the disciples of the All-Cade Immortal Sect were all safe. Seeing that so many powerful disciples of the true martial immortal sect had fallen, he was gloating in his heart. He was incomparably proud, but on the surface he did not show it. Calm down. The one who died is the true martial immortal sect's holy son, not your All-Cade Immortal Sect's holy son. Of course you're not worried. If Lei Ling dares to leave the immortal demon cave, I won't let him off. Qi Lin did not appreciate the Fecta Immortal Lord's words and sneered. Crack. At this moment, an extremely crisp sound was heard. Everyone from the 9 major immortal sects shuddered and quickly looked over. Instantly, a strange look appeared in everyone's eyes. Even Qi Lin was momentarily stunned as he looked behind the Fecta Immortal Lord. What's going on? When the Fecta Immortal Lord saw Qi Lin's gaze, He instantly felt that something was amiss and quickly turned around. The smile on his face froze instantly. In the next moment, monstrous anger erupted and his eyes were filled with disbelief and anger. Among the 60 life tokens of the All-Kate Immortal Sect, the one that represented Ren Tianjue had shattered. Swoosh! Soon, a dazzling light broke through the void and flew out of the Immortal Demon Cave. It appeared before the Fekta Immortal Lord and emitted dazzling immortal light. It was the All-Kate Mirror. Ren Tianjue's life token had shattered, and the All-Kate Mirror had flown out of the Immortal Demon Cave. This meant that Ren Tianjue had fallen. The Fekta Immortal Lord could no longer smile. He had been gloating earlier, but now he was filled with rage. The bachelor of the All-Kate Immortal Sect had fallen as well. It's Lei Ling. It must be Lei Ling who killed Ren Tianjue and Gu Tongtian. The Fekta Immortal Lord's eyes were bloodshot. He turned around abruptly and glared at Gu Tongtian, his eyes filled with rage. He could not think of anyone else who could kill Ren Tianjue. After all, the bachelor of the 9 major immortal sects were extremely powerful, and far surpassed the bachelor of the 6 major immortal sects. Other than Lei Ling, who else could pose a threat to them? The bachelor and saintess of the 9 major immortal sects were all nurtured by the 9 major immortal sects. This time, they were allowed to enter the Immortal Demon Cave and participate in the Immortal Demon Conference as a form of training and preparation for the expedition to the Eternal Emperor Road. In their opinion, it was impossible for the bachelor and saintess of the 9 major immortal sects to die. It did not matter if a few ordinary disciples died. But who would have thought that Ren Tianjue and Wu Xingchen would fall in less than a day after the Immortal Demon Cave opened? Seeing the Fekta Immortal Lord's gaze, Gu Tongtian sneered and said, "It's fine if the disciples of the All-Kate Immortal Sect die. Why? Do you want to fight me?" Gu Tongtian's eyes revealed a trace of domineering and sharp sword light as he pierced towards the Fekta Immortal Lord. The Fekta Immortal Lord trembled. He felt as though there was a supreme divine sword that pierced through the heavens and the earth. It was so terrifying that he could not help but take a few steps back. It was only then that he remembered that Gu Tongtian was already a peerless, ferocious person 10,000 years ago. Gu Tongtian, if Ren Tianjue dies in the hands of Lei Ling, Senior Brother Sect Master will seek an explanation from you. The Fekta Immortal Lord said coldly. He put up a strong front and said some harsh words, but still chose to retreat. "You have no balls." Gu Tongtian sneered. Instantly, the Fekta Immortal Lord flew into a rage, but he did not dare to provoke Gu Tongtian again. The successive deaths of Wu Xingchen and Ren Tianjue caused the supreme elders of the other 7 major immortal sects to change their expressions. Among the 9 major saints and saintesses, Taiyuan was publicly acknowledged as the strongest. Jianxin's combat strength was also extremely strong. However, other than the 2 of them, the others were on par with Ren Tianjue and Wu Xingchen. Even if they were stronger, they would not be much stronger. In that case, wouldn't they be in danger of dying as well? For a moment, the people of the 9 major immortal sects looked at the 6 major immortal sects with less relaxed expressions, and became incomparably solemn. It seemed that there would be a variable in this Immortal Demon Conference. And Lei Ling was the biggest variable. Chapter 30-32. 3 days. Ling Xiao had already wandered around the Immortal Devil Cave for 3 days, and he had already explored the area within a radius of 1,000,000 miles. In these 3 days, he had only met 2 disciples of the true martial immortal sect and 4 disciples of the All-Kate Immortal Sect. All of them had died in his hands. However, other than that, the people from the 9 major immortal sects seemed to have disappeared into thin air. He had no idea where they had gone. Ling Xiao had not even met a single disciple from the 6 major immortal sections. Could it be that they have entered some kind of ruin? Ling Xiao frowned as he thought to himself. Entering the Immortal Demon Cave was a random teleportation. Logically speaking, he should have met a few disciples from the 6 major immortal sections. However, he had not sensed Zhangchun, Wu Hen and the rest. He could not help but suspect that something had happened in the Immortal Demon Cave. The Immortal Demon Cave was vast and boundless. However, there were few people in the forbidden areas that the Immortal Tribe and Divine Tribe frequented. In fact, there were no signs of a battle. The immortal demon cave is a little strange. When Ling Xiao returned to the forest of life, he had a serious expression on his face. Ling Xiao realized that the traces of his battle with Wu Xingqian and Ren Tianjue had all disappeared. It was as if they had been erased by some kind of power. Although Ling Xiao had taken Wu Xingqian and Ren Tianjue as Dao fruits, he had not touched their flesh and blood. At this moment, Ling Xiao realized that the flesh, torn clothes, and immortal weapons had all disappeared. Moreover, the strange power that devoured life in the forest of life had not completely disappeared. It was just weaker than before. The surroundings were very quiet. The leaves on the ground were very thick. Sunlight seeped in through the gaps between the leaves, making the surroundings very quiet. However, this kind of silence made Ling Xiao shudder even though it was not cold. Whoosh! The uneasiness in Ling Xiao's heart grew stronger. He immediately leaped into the sky. He stepped into the void and looked at the world. Silence. What Ling Xiao felt was an incomparable silence. Those originally powerful ferocious beasts, and even all the powerful flying beasts in the air, had all disappeared without a trace. It was as if they had sensed that a storm was coming. Those beasts had all gone into hiding. This situation was not right. Ling Xiao suddenly felt a strong sense of danger surging into his heart. However, the surroundings were incomparably calm, and Ling Xiao couldn't tell where the danger was coming from. However, the sense of crisis was getting stronger and stronger. That feeling was like sinking into a muddy swamp, sinking bit by bit. There was no other way but to gradually welcome death. Following that, before Ling Xiao could do anything, he saw an incomparably shocking scene. The heaven and earth in front of him, the mountains and rivers in the distance, and even the surrounding void. Everything in Ling Xiao's line of sight was slowly fusing into one. It was as if it had been flattened and turned into a flat surface, as if it had been drawn by someone. Then it gently floated down. Ling Xiao was instantly unable to move. Even though his mind wasn't affected at all, he could feel that his body, his primordial spirit, his fine hairs, and his entire body had stopped moving. It was as if he wanted to merge into the scroll. This was the sense of crisis. Rumble. Ling Xiao activated all his cultivation without hesitation. The 15 Dao fruits were like dazzling stars, blooming with endless light in his primordial spirit's sea of consciousness, providing him with endless power. At the same time, Ling Xiao also activated the wordless heavenly book and the creation jade disc. His aura became incomparably terrifying as he tried to break free from the strange binding force around him. Ling Xiao could move again, although it was still very slow. However, he seemed to be separated from the scroll. Bit by bit, he wormed his way out of the scroll and finally exploded with a loud bang. Ling Xiao's eyes were filled with dazzling light. It was a vast expanse of whiteness, like a chaotic space. Nothing could be seen clearly. After a series of upheavals, everything fell silent. Ling Xiao suddenly fell with a loud bang, smashing hard into the incomparably hard ground. Then Ling Xiao saw a scene that shocked him to the core. The heaven and earth of the immortal demon grotto, the void, the mountains and rivers, and everything else formed a mysterious scroll. Everything became flat, forming a leaf that danced in the air. A huge ancient tree appeared in front of Ling Xiao's eyes. The tree took root in the chaos and was surrounded by chaotic mist. It was mysterious and auspicious, with luxuriant branches and leaves. The crown of the tree was like a dome, blotting out the sun. Above the leaves, there was a devouring force. Mysterious scenes of worlds appeared one after another. It was as if countless worlds were evolving. It was extremely mysterious. Ling Xiao appeared in an incomparably vast space. There was no space, no time, and nothing in the world around him. There wasn't even any great Tao laws. Just like that, Ling Xiao suddenly appeared under the ancient tree. He still couldn't move, but his thoughts weren't restricted. He could see that the leaves on the ancient tree were like ancient worlds. As for those tree branches, they were the passageways between the worlds, connecting the endless worlds. It was a very strange feeling. It was as if he'd jumped out of the world's prison and seen everything in the universe. Ling Xiao suddenly had a feeling in his heart, jumping out of the 3 realms and not within the 5 elements. That was the feeling he had now. He was looking at everything in the universe in an incomparably strange state. The trunk of the ancient tree seemed to have turned into an incomparably huge road in Ling Xiao's eyes. It pierced through billions of worlds, through the chaotic void, and through the river of time. It was eternal and immortal. The trunk led to an unknown space. There seemed to be an incomprehensibly magnificent scene there. Could this tree be what we call the myriad realms, or perhaps the universe? Ling Xiao's heart trembled. He was shocked like never before. It felt like countless years had passed, but also like a moment. Ling Xiao sat under the ancient tree and watched the leaves of the ancient tree turn yellow and fall. Then new shoots sprouted again, emitting boundless vitality. A leaf, a world. Could it be that a falling leaf represents the great tribulation of an era? Ling Xiao's eyes revealed a look of enlightenment. He felt like he'd gone through 4 seasons here. The ancient tree also appeared in 4 different strange states. The ancient tree emitted vitality, sprouted new buds, and grew into leaves. The ancient tree was verdant and lush, blooming to the extreme. Then it gradually withered and the leaves slowly fell off, finally landing at the roots of the tree. The leaves collapsed and merged with the roots. All traces were erased as if they had never existed. Only the huge trunk continued to soar into the sky as if it was accumulating energy to break through the boundless restrictions. Leaves grew and fell. Then it was another cycle. P.S. Let me give you a preview. It will explode tomorrow. At least 10 chapters, strive for 15. The book is in the later stages, so it's slow to write. There are only 2 chapters a day. Please forgive me. Also, you can add my work account and search for my name, Sunset Rain Celestial Sky. If you have any questions, you can ask me directly. I will also post some extras and plot content. Thank you. Chapter 30-33. After an unknown period of time, the ancient tree in front of Ling Xiao seemed to have gone through a reincarnation cycle before slowly disappearing in front of Ling Xiao's eyes. The scene in front of Ling Xiao changed, and he appeared in the immortal demon grotto once again. He was still in the sky above the forest of life. The forest of life below was verdant and lush, containing boundless vitality. At the same time, it also nurtured countless powerful beasts, whose roars shook the sky and reverberated through the forest. Was that an illusion just now? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he thought to himself. However, he felt that it wasn't an illusion. It was a scene that truly existed. The wordless heavenly book and the jade plate of fortune in his body still showed signs of being activated. Even the life origin in his body had been greatly depleted. The boundless vitality that Ling Xiao had obtained from the heart of the devouring immortal emperor was now almost depleted. Did I unintentionally break free from the shackles of this universe and transcend the great Tao to see the most realistic scene? The so-called myriad heavens and realms are just countless leaves on a tree? Ling Xiao's heart trembled. This thought was hard to believe, but it also seemed to make sense. To an ant, perhaps a small puddle was a vast ocean, and a slope was a towering mountain range. The scene that he had just seen shocked Ling Xiao immensely, as if his primordial spirit had been elevated. Or is that the power of transcendence? Ling Xiao's heart trembled as if he had thought of something. Legend had it that the peak of the great emperor was the path of transcendence. It was a power that transcended the great Tao, the myriad heavens and realms, and the universe. Ling Xiao vaguely felt that perhaps he had just unintentionally discovered a great secret. No matter what, that power isn't something that I can touch right now. Why does the immortal demon grotto have such a strange power? Is it because this is the place of the great emperor battle? At the same time, Ling Xiao's heart was filled with doubts. He had wandered around the immortal demon grotto for 3 days, and hadn't found the whereabouts of the divine race and immortal tribe. He had even accidentally entered that strange space. In that space, whether it was the immortal demon grotto or the myriad heavens and realms, everything seemed to have become a leaf that was presented clearly in front of him. Could it be that the god race and the immortal race had also entered that space? Ling Xiao felt that perhaps they were just affected, but they probably wouldn't jump out of the 3 realms like he did. After all, Ling Xiao had unleashed the power of 2 chaos cardinal treasures in order to achieve this. No matter what, that scene had been deeply imprinted in Ling Xiao's mind, leaving an indelible impression. Is there an immortal aura in the distance? A gleam of light flashed through Ling Zhao's eyes. He immediately sensed the sounds of battle in the distance. He immediately withdrew his aura and teleported over. At the edge of the Forest of Life, 3 to 5 immortal powerhouses in Daoist robes were attacking a fiery red lion. Once we kill this Supreme Flame Lion King and obtain its inner core, we will have gathered the last fire element inner core of the 5 elemental treasures. The person in the lead was a young man in a black robe who held an immortal sword in his hand. His face was cold and arrogant, and his aura was peerlessly powerful. His cultivation had already reached the 2nd heaven of the immortal monarch realm, while the remaining 4 were all immortal venerables. Congratulations, second young master. With the 5 elemental treasures, we will be able to open the relic and kill all the god race members who are hiding there. A few immortal venerables beside him complimented him. That's right. Everyone, let's work harder. This Supreme Flame Lion King is about to die. The black-robed young man shouted coldly. Rumble. Sword chi swept across, and the dazzling divine light seemed to be able to destroy everything. Under the siege of the 5 powerhouses, the Supreme Flame Lion King's body was covered with wounds. In the end, he let out a sorrowful cry. His forehead was pierced through, and his primordial spirit was destroyed. Bang! The corpse of the Supreme Flame Lion King fell heavily on the ground, breaking a few towering ancient trees. It let out a violent roar like a small mountain. Puff! The black-robed young man held the immortal sword and cut open the abdomen of the Supreme Flame Lion King. He then took out a dazzling red inner core that was surrounded by dazzling flames. It was the inner core of the Supreme Flame Lion King. After seeing the inner core, the few immortal venerables couldn't help but swallow their saliva. Their eyes were burning with passion. The inner core contained incomparably pure flame origin. If they could refine it and slowly comprehend it, it wouldn't take long for them to break through to the immortal realm. Let's go. This time, we must kill all those despicable god race members. The black-robed young man kept the inner core and sneered. But at this moment, they saw a person appear behind them. Who are you? The black-robed young man's eyes flashed as he shouted coldly. The person who stood in front of them was naturally Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao said indifferently, I heard that you are looking for the members of the god race? Great, I'm also looking for them. Why don't you bring me there? You're courting death. You're also from the god race? An ant-like thing dares to block this young master's path? Scram. The black-robed young man's eyes flashed with killing intent. He thrust the immortal sword in his hand towards Ling Xiao's glabella. When the 4 people behind the black-robed young man saw Ling Xiao, their faces changed. They immediately recognized Ling Xiao's identity and exclaimed, Second young master, be careful. He is Lei Ling of the ancient god sect. Even Ren Tianjue was defeated by him with a single punch. However, they were too late. The black-robed young man's immortal sword was already in front of Ling Xiao's glabella. Clang! Ling Xiao stretched out 2 fingers and caught the immortal sword. The sword chi was annihilated, and the immortal sword buzzed and shook the void. The black-robed young man's face changed. He felt that Ling Xiao was like a desolate giant beast that possessed endless power. He couldn't pull the immortal sword out when it was caught by Ling Xiao. Young people are really hot-tempered. You won't listen to me when I'm talking nicely. Do you really want me to attack you? Ling Xiao sighed softly as a sharp light flashed in his eyes. Rumble. There seemed to be a terrifying power erupting between his fingers. He shook his fingers and an unparalleled divine power erupted. Instantly, the immortal sword was shattered into pieces. He threw a punch in the air. The black-robed young man's face changed drastically. He felt that Ling Xiao had turned from a little lamb into a desolate giant beast. He exuded an unstoppable and invincible aura. Chapter 30-34. Crack. The black-robed young man instinctively stretched out his arms to block the attack. However, his arms were smashed by Ling Xiao's punch. He was sent flying with blood gushing out of his mouth. Lei Ling? You're the Lei Ling who defeated Ren Tianjue with a single punch? The second young master's eyes were filled with horror. The 4 men from the Celestial clan hurriedly helped the second young master up. At the same time, they unsheathed their weapons and stared at Ling Xiao warily. People from the Tai celestial sect? Tell me, where are the people from the 6 major divine sects? How are they doing now? Ling Xiao said indifferently. His body emitted an incomparably powerful aura that suppressed Yi Futian. These 5 men were all disciples of the Tai celestial sect. However, Ling Xiao found the second young master in the lead unfamiliar. He had never seen this person before. Lei Ling, how dare you attack me? Do you know who my elder brother is? My elder brother is Taiyuan. Apologize to me now. I'll forgive you as long as you apologize. The black-robed young man yelled at Ling Xiao fiercely. The 4 disciples of the Tai celestial sect beside him could not help but twitch their lips. Their second young master was too stupid to threaten Ling Xiao at this time. This guy dared to attack Ren Tianjue. Why would he give face to the Taiyuan saint? Moreover, the Taiyuan saint was not here. Taiyuan's younger brother? Looks like I've caught a big fish today. Not bad, not bad. Since you're so unyielding, I'll put in some effort and search your soul. Ling Xiao said with a faint smile as he walked toward the black-robed young man. Lei Ling, you can't attack the second young master. Otherwise, the Taiyuan saint won't let you go. Devour. The 4 disciples of the Tai celestial sect mustered up their courage and said. However, before they could finish their words, Ling Xiao waved his hand casually and swept them away. Ling Xiao walked up to the black-robed young man, reached out his hand, and grabbed him by the neck and lifted him up. The black-robed young man was finally afraid. His eyes were filled with terror. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Lei Ling, let me go. You can't search my soul. I'll tell you everything you want to know. Let me go, you bastard. The black-robed young man half begged and half threatened. Interesting. Tell me. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. He felt that the black-robed young man was interesting, so he put him down. After the black-robed young man was put down by Ling Xiao, he did not wait for Ling Xiao to interrogate him. Like a bamboo tube filled with beans, he spilled everything. Ling Xiao's expression gradually became serious. The disciples of the old god cult met the disciples of the heaven-reaching immortal sect by accident. They had a big fight, and then the disciples of the old god cult escaped into a relic. However, there was a powerful formation guarding the relic. Tai Xian was good at formations, so he knew that he needed the combination of the 5 elements treasure and the yin-yang treasure to break the formation. Therefore, Tai Xian came out to search for the 5 elements treasure, but he did not expect to meet Ling Xiao. Lei Ling, I didn't kill the disciples of the old god cult. They were killed by the disciples of the heaven-reaching immortal sect. When I arrived, they had already escaped into the relic. Tai Xian quickly explained. Why did you team up with the true martial immortal sect instead of staying with Taiyuan? Does he not worry about your safety? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he asked flatly. My big brother seems to have gone to explore the relic of a great emperor. He didn't have time to deal with me, so he let me train by myself. Anyway, no one dares to hurt me. Tai Xian glanced at Ling Xiao carefully after he finished speaking. But he did not think that he would actually encounter Ling Xiao, this malefic star. Is that true? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. Although he could feel that Tai Xian wasn't lying, he still felt that something wasn't right. It's true. Tai Xian never lie. Tai Xian quickly said. Very well. Take me to the relic. Ling Xiao said flatly. Lei Ling, you won't kill me, right? My big brother is Taiyuan. You can't kill me. As long as you let me go, I'll ask my big brother to spare your life. Tai Xian glanced at Ling Xiao and said. If you're obedient, I'll spare your life. Ling Xiao said with a faint smile. All right, I'll take you there. Tai Xian gritted his teeth. Second young master, you can't trust him. He, a disciple of the Tai immortal sect, hastily said. A cold light flashed in Ling Xiao's eyes as he pointed at the void. The light from his finger seemed to be able to penetrate everything. In an instant, it pierced through the glabella of the 4 disciples of the Tai immortal sect, destroying their primordial spirits. In Ling Xiao's eyes, immortal venerables were just ants that he could kill with a wave of his hand. Tai Xian couldn't help but shudder when he saw Ling Xiao killing the 4 disciples of the Tai immortal sect. He quickly got up and obediently led the way for Ling Xiao. This person was truly a peerless, ruthless person. Tai Xian didn't want to die here. However, it seemed like Ling Xiao was afraid of his big brother Tai Yuan. That was why he didn't dare to kill him directly. Tai Xian was slightly relieved. He could only hope that Tai Yuan could come quickly. The outside world was too terrifying. The divine race was indeed a group of ruthless people, just like the legends said. Under Tai Xian's lead, Ling Xiao followed him through a few mountains and finally entered a cave. After walking for tens of thousands of feet, the cave opened up. It was a completely different world inside. It seemed to be an incomparably secluded valley that couldn't be seen from the sky. The valley was incomparably vast and filled with exotic flowers and grasses. However, at this moment, it seemed like a great battle had taken place in the valley. There were severed limbs everywhere, and the smell of blood was incomparably strong. Not only were there experts of the immortal race, but there were also experts of the divine race. Dozens of disciples of the immortal race had cold eyes and powerful immortal weapons in their hands. They surrounded a dazzling void passage in the distance. They were all disciples of the Tai Yi immortal sect and the heaven-piercing immortal sect. When Tai Xian and Ling Xiao walked into the valley, everyone's eyes fell on them. Lei Ling. Everyone from the immortal tribe shuddered. Their eyes were filled with shock and fear. Chapter 30-35. 15 from Tai Yi Immortal Sect and 42 from Heaven Connecting Immortal Sect. The Sword Heart Saint isn't here? It seems like everyone is here except for the Sword Heart Saint. A hint of a smile appeared in Ling Xiao's eyes. A fierce battle had taken place in the valley. The deity clan had suffered heavy casualties, and the immortal clan had also lost some of their members. Taking a closer look, everyone was here except for the Sword Heart Saint of Heaven Connecting Immortal Sect. Ling Xiao exuded a piercingly cold killing intent. More than 30 disciples of the old god sect had died. Previously, they had respectfully addressed him as the god's son, but in the blink of an eye, they had been slaughtered by the immortal clan. Ling Xiao was still a step too late. Lei Ling, release the second young master now. Otherwise, the Tai Yuan saint won't let you off. A young man from Tai Yi Immortal Sect who was at the second heaven of the monarch realm said coldly. His eyes were filled with shock and anger. He did not expect the second young master to fall into the hands of Lei Ling when he went out to look for the 5 elements treasure. Lei Ling, what are you trying to do? This is not a place where you can act presumptuously. Leave now. The leader of the Heaven Connecting Immortal Sect was a beautiful, cold, and arrogant woman in a long dress. She was like a celestial maiden, and her clothes were fluttering in the wind. She appeared fierce but was timid at heart. Her cultivation base was at the second heaven of the monarch realm. She was well aware of Ling Xiao's strength. Outside the immortal demon cave, Ling Xiao had defeated the saint of all Cade Immortal Sect, Ren Tianjue, with a single punch. In the past few days, there were even rumors that Ling Xiao had killed Wu Xingqian of the True Martial Immortal Sect and Ren Tianjue of the All-Cade Immortal Sect. Although these 2 rumors had yet to be verified, Wu Xingqian and Ren Tianjue had never appeared again. Therefore, even though there were dozens of disciples from Tai Yi Immortal Sect and Heaven Connecting Immortal Sect here, they still felt as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Tai Xian, what do you think we should do? Ling Xiao smiled faintly, but his eyes were filled with intense killing intent. The immortal clan was always high and mighty. Perhaps their sense of superiority had made them forget the past glory of the deity clan. They were no longer as they were now, allowing them to kill them as they wished. It was impossible to reason with such people. It was better to destroy them all. When Tai Xian saw the look in Ling Xiao's eyes, his heart trembled. He hurriedly said, God's child, these bastards deserve to die for provoking you. Lord Lei Ling, please kill them all. Tai Xian was completely afraid of Ling Xiao. The trauma Ling Xiao had left in his heart was too deep. So in order to save his own life, he did not care about anything else. Although there were disciples of the Tai Yi Immortal Sect here, Tai Xian couldn't care less about his friends. Second young master? The Celestial Duke from the Tai Yi Celestial Sect stared at Tai Xian in disbelief. Their second young master was actually like this? Smart, don't worry. You're so smart, I won't kill you. Ling Xiao said with a smile. Then he sealed all of Taixian's cultivation and threw him aside. This so-called immortal devil gathering is just a joke. You immortals can hunt gods, so why can't gods hunt immortals? Today I'll start with you. I'm going to kill all the immortals in the immortal demon cave. Ling Zhao's voice was incomparably cold. There was no emotion in his voice at all. He radiated with a monstrous killing intent that swept towards the group of immortals in a mighty manner. How dare you? You're courting death. The people from the Tai Celestial sect and the heaven-connecting immortal sect were shocked and angry. They didn't expect Ling Xiao to attack so decisively. Devour. Was he really not afraid of the Taiyuan Saint Sun and the Sword Heart Saint Sun? The Taiyuan Saint Sun and the Sword Heart Saint Sun were the two most dazzling peerless geniuses among the 9 major immortal sections. They had even killed many powerful celestial dukes. Ling Xiao was just a first heaven celestial duke. Where did he get his confidence from? However, before they could think about it, Ling Xiao had already charged toward them. Rumble. Divine light rose around Ling Xiao, blazing and dazzling. Chaotic light gushed out of his chest like a dazzling sun. His black hair fluttered in the wind, and his eyes were like lightning. He looked majestic and mysterious. He charged toward the immortals with his bare hands. Kacha. An unparalleled fist print swept across the surroundings. It contained an incomparably terrifying pressure, causing the expressions of the immortals to change drastically. Rumble. They could feel the great terror between life and death. Therefore, they didn't hesitate at all and chose to attack. Dozens of powerful immortal lights shot across the sky. They took out their powerful celestial artifacts and cast their powerful celestial techniques. It was an earth-shattering scene. However, the strongest among them were only 2nd heavenly high immortal realm experts. The rest were only first heaven celestial dukes, celestial primes, and celestial kings. Although the sudden attack was powerful, in Ling Zhao's opinion, it was simply too weak to withstand a single blow. Rumble. An unparalleled chaotic fist print exploded. It seemed to be able to shatter the heavens and sweep across the universe. In an instant, it drowned the immortal lights in the sky and blasted them into dust. The powerful celestial artifacts that the immortals were so proud of were shattered into pieces by Ling Zhao's fist print like scrap metal. They felt an unparalleled divine force sweeping toward them. It was as though they were struck by lightning. Their bodies trembled violently as they were sent flying. Dozens of immortals couldn't even withstand a single punch from Ling Xiao. Unparalleled fist intent swept out in a mighty manner. Ling Xiao seemed to have transformed into a supreme great emperor. He moved across the sun, the moon, and the stars. His body was surrounded by 3,000 worlds. No one was a match for him. Puff. Ling Xiao threw out a punch. An immortal duke from the Tai immortal sect exploded. Blood mist filled the air, and his primordial spirit was blasted into countless pieces. Ling Zhao's speed was extremely fast. It was as though he was shuttling through the void. Several immortal venerables didn't even have the time to scream before they exploded in the void. Ling Xiao strode forward. Every step he took resonated with the heavens and earth. His powerful aura swept across the sky, setting off a bloody storm. In just a blink of an eye, more than half of the dozens of immortals were killed by Ling Xiao. Only a few immortal dukes from the Tai immortal sect and the heaven-connecting immortal sect were still resisting. However, it seemed like they wouldn't live for long. Ling Zhao's surroundings seemed to have formed a mysterious and terrifying domain, suppressing everyone's aura within. They couldn't even escape. After a few moments, everyone was killed by Ling Xiao. It's too terrifying. This malefic star is too terrifying. Fortunately, I pretended to be polite to him and didn't fight him head-on. Otherwise, I'm afraid I would have ended up like him. Senior brothers and junior brothers, please don't blame me. When my brother comes, he'll definitely avenge all of you. Taixian, who was lying in the distance, trembled as he muttered to himself. His face was extremely pale. He was really frightened. Chapter 30-36. What are you talking to yourself about? Ling Xiao suddenly turned around and looked at Taixian coldly. Taixian trembled when he saw Ling Xiao's eyes. He was so scared that he almost peed his pants. No, nothing. I'm just saying that Lord Lei Ling is wise and powerful. How dare these bastards go against you? They deserve to die. Tai Xian squeezed out an ugly smile and complimented Ling Xiao softly. Ling Xiao ignored him and did not intend to kill him. Hence, he did not care about what Tai Xian said. He turned around and looked at the huge whirlpool passageway in the valley. Tai Xian heaved a sigh of relief. That was scary. Why is Lei Ling's gaze so scary? You can open the array in the relic? Ling Zhao's voice sounded and Tai Xian's heart skipped a beat. Yes, absolutely. This array is a yin-yang reversal 5 elements array. As long as there is a yin-yang 5 elements treasure to guard the array, we can enter. Tai Xian nodded quickly. He was afraid that Ling Xiao would think that he was useless and blow him up with a punch. Great. Come on. Ling Xiao said flatly. He then pointed at the air and released the cultivation seal on Tai Xian. Tai Xian ran toward the whirlpool passageway. First, he took out 5 glowing inner cores. They were 5 different colors and glowed brightly. They were the 5 elemental inner cores that he had obtained from the 5 ferocious beasts he had killed earlier. Then he took out a black and white bead reluctantly. The bead was only the size of a longan, but it was shrouded in yin and yang light. There seemed to be layers of void in it that reflected the boundless world. It's the yin-yang origin bead? Ling Xiao was slightly surprised. The yin-yang origin bead was not a weapon but a top-notch treasure. It could even be used as a base to refine an emperor weapon. The yin-yang origin bead contained the essence of yin and yang. It had been nurtured in the land of yin and yang for countless years. In the end, extreme yang gave birth to yin, and extreme yin gave birth to yang. When yin and yang converged and returned to the origin, it became a supreme treasure. Ling Xiao did not expect this guy to have the yin-yang origin bead. This yin-yang origin bead is mine, Ling Xiao said flatly. Tai Xian's face stiffened and he felt his heart bleeding. This was a treasure that would help him in the future. The entire Tai Immortal sect did not have a second one origin bead. But what could he do? Did he dare to refuse? This maleficent Ling was going to kill him. Although Tai Xian was unwilling, he had no choice but to do so. The yin-yang origin bead is very suitable for the jints. It can become the supreme treasure of the jints. In the future, it can even form the yin-yang realm. If other extreme materials are added, it will definitely become a top-notch extreme monarch weapon. It might even surpass the yin-yang Tai Chi diagram. Who would have thought that not killing Tai Xian would give him such a surprise? He took a deep breath, and then his eyes instantly became extremely focused. A strange light flowed in his eyes, and then his 10 fingers fluttered, quickly forming seals. The speed of the seals was so fast that it left afterimages in the void. Ling Xiao saw runes condensing in Tai Xian's palm and flying toward the vortex. Buzz. The vortex passageway trembled slightly, and the light changed. Faintly, a faint 7-colored light appeared. Then, 7 strange nodes appeared around the vortex. They were connected to each other and coexisted with each other. It was very strange. Go. After seeing the 7 nodes, Tai Xian suddenly shouted. The 5 inner cores and the yin-yang origin bead turned into a stream of light and rushed into the nodes. The 5 inner elixirs each occupied a node. The yin-yang origin bead split into 2 yin and yang qi, like 2 pearls fixed on the 2 nodes. Finally, the yin-yang origin bead flew back and landed in Tai Xian's palm. Rumble. After the 7 nodes were occupied, the vortex trembled violently. Divine light roared and the void shook. Gradually, an extremely stable passage appeared, and an ancient and strange aura came from it. The passage to the relic was completely opened. The people from the old god sect entered the vortex by accident. After they entered, they seemed to have destroyed 7 array eyes. That's why they stopped us. Now that I've fixed the 7 array eyes, I can repair the array and open the passage. Tai Xian explained to Ling Xiao proudly. What he was most proud of was not his cultivation but his attainments in array formation. In the entire Tai Celestial sect, even the old monsters did not dare to say that they were better than him in array formation. In Tai Xian's eyes, the array formation in front of him was just a piece of cake. He had helped Tai Xian open many powerful array relics, and there was no lack of Supreme Emperor arrays in those relics. Give me the yin-yang origin bead, Ling Xiao said as he looked at Tai Xian. Tai Xian's face stiffened and his pride was gone. He felt his heart bleeding as he handed the yin-yang origin bead to Ling Xiao dejectedly. Holding the yin-yang origin bead in his hand, Ling Xiao immediately felt a surge of yin and yang qi surging into his body. It flowed through his body, cold and refreshing, making his physical body seem to have improved slightly. It was indeed a supreme treasure. Ling Xiao was satisfied. That, Lord Lei Ling, the yin-yang origin bead. Tai Xian said hesitantly. It's mine, Ling Xiao said as he stared at Tai Xian with the yin-yang origin bead in his hand. Tai Xian's face darkened, but he still said flatteringly, Lord Lei Ling, although the yin-yang origin bead is a supreme treasure, I've used up a lot of the yin and yang qi in it. If you can refine it with the innate yin and yang qi, it will definitely become a top supreme emperor weapon in the future. Innate yin and yang qi? Where is it? Ling Xiao was taken aback. Ahem. I opened an ancient relic yesterday. It's the place where the yin-yang immortal emperor passed away. The yin-yang immortal emperor merged with the origin of heaven and earth, and created a pool of innate yin and yang qi. It's perfect for refining the yin-yang origin bead, Tai Xian said with a cough. Oh, if that's the case, why don't you use it to refine it? Ling Xiao asked with a half-smile. I wanted to use it to refine the yin-yang origin bead, but my elder brother needed to cultivate in seclusion, so he kept it. He said he left the immortal demon cave, and brought it back to the sect so that the sect master could refine it for me, Tai Xian explained. Your elder brother? Taiyuan Saint? That means the innate yin and yang qi is in Taiyuan's hands. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. You're hoping that Taiyuan can save you, Ling Xiao said with a cold smile. Chapter 30-37. Tai Xian smiled awkwardly and said, Master Lei Ling, my brother is indeed powerful, but you're not weak either. Moreover, you can use me to exchange for the innate yin and yang qi from my brother. My brother dotes on me and will definitely agree. So that's what you're thinking, Ling Xiao said with a faint smile. Master Lei Ling, what do you think of my idea? Seeing that Ling Xiao was tempted, Tai Xian was shocked and asked hurriedly. He was indeed afraid. Lei Ling was a devil who killed people at the drop of a hat. Didn't he see that the people from heavenly reaching immortal sect were all killed by him? He wondered what kind of expression the Sword Heart Saint would have when he saw this scene. Tai Xian was afraid that Lei Ling would be temperamental and kill him too. Therefore, the safest way was to leave Lei Ling as soon as possible. For this reason, he even betrayed his brother and told him about the innate yin and yang qi. We'll see. Now let's go into the relic and have a look, Ling Xiao said non-committally. Outside the relic is the yin-yang reversal 5 elements formation. Could it be a relic left behind by an expert from the immortal tribe? Ling Xiao thought to himself. With this doubt, he took Tai Xian and plunged into the relic's passageway. Boom! When Ling Xiao entered the relic, he immediately felt the surroundings shaking. Powerful and overbearing attacks swept across the sky. Ling Xiao's blood and qi surged and divine light gushed out. He then punched out. Crack! The attacks that filled the sky were all swept away and destroyed. Stop! It's not the immortal tribe, it's the Son of God, someone exclaimed. His voice was filled with incomparable excitement. The light in front of Ling Xiao changed, and he could see the surroundings clearly. More than 30 disciples of the old god cult were attacking. They must have thought that the immortal tribe had invaded, so they attacked with all their might when they saw a figure in the passageway. Ling Xiao felt that they were disciples of the old god cult, so he released the aura of the immortal tribe. He did not use his full strength and only destroyed their attacks. The 30 over disciples of the ancient god cult were all injured, but their eyes were filled with surprise. Their gazes towards Ling Xiao were filled with fanatical worship. Previously, they had almost lost all hope, and were planning to fight to the death. Even if they died, they would kill a few more immortals. But who would have thought that the surprise would come so quickly? It was actually the arrival of the Son of God. Ling Xiao's arrival made them feel the joy and excitement of escaping death. Greetings, God's child. More than 30 disciples of the ancient god cult knelt down in front of Ling Xiao and shouted excitedly. Everyone, please rise. I've killed all the people from the Tai celestial sect and the heaven-connecting celestial sect. Ling Xiao smiled faintly and raised his hands. Instantly, a gush of abundant divine power gushed out and helped all the disciples of the ancient god cult up. Have they all been killed? The mighty Son of God. Although the disciples of the old god cult had expected this, they still couldn't help but shout excitedly. Although Tai Xian was standing beside Ling Xiao, he looked like a captive of the Son of God. Although they were puzzled as to why the Son of God didn't kill Tai Xian, they didn't say anything. Did you find anything in the ruins? Ling Xiao asked curiously. Speaking of which, it wasn't easy. Although the ancient god cult had brought 90 people this time. In order to reduce the casualties, none of them were immortal monarchs except for Ling Xiao. However, Ling Xiao found out that one of the disciples had broken through to the immortal monarch realm. Reporting to the Son of God, we found an ancestral god spring in the ruins. With the help of the ancestral god spring, my cultivation base directly broke through to the Imperial Emperor realm. The leader of the group was a young man. Although his appearance was ordinary, his face was resolute and he was broad and burly. He touched his head and said to Ling Xiao in surprise. His name was Shan. He had been in the immortal monarch realm for thousands of years. He was also a genius of the ancient god cult, but he had fallen into obscurity later on. Who would have thought that after he entered the immortal demon cave, he would directly break through to the immortal lord realm and become the leader of the remaining disciples of the old god cult. Ancestral god spring? Bring me to have a look. Ling Xiao's eyes lit up. The 12 ancestors of the god clan were called the 12 ancestral gods. In fact, the ancestral god realm represented a realm recognized by the god clan, the Great Emperor realm. The god clan called those who broke through to the Great Emperor realm as ancestral gods. It was the meaning of the ancestors of the god clan. Devour. The so-called ancestral god spring was the essence spring left behind by the great emperors of the god clan. It wasn't necessarily left behind by the 12 ancestral gods. The ancestral god spring contained the purest origin energy. It was an unimaginable fortune for the immortal monarchs. Ling Xiao was still guessing that this was a ruin left behind by an immortal monarch. He didn't expect to find an ancestral god spring here. Son of God, this way please. Shan said respectfully. Under Shan's lead, Ling Xiao walked into the depths of the ruins. Xian's face revealed a hint of curiosity. The ancestral god spring was an extremely rare treasure. For the divine race, it was a treasure that was as precious as their lifeblood. In the past Immortal Demon Conference, there were experts of the god clan who encountered the ancestral god spring, and their cultivation base increased greatly. There's an ancestral god spring in this ruin. These disciples of the old god cult are really lucky. Xian thought to himself. This ruin wasn't big. It was only about 10,000 miles in radius. The surrounding void was shattered, and there were cracks. This was a space that was about to be destroyed. If they hadn't discovered this ruin, they were afraid that this space would have been completely destroyed before the next Immortal Demon Great Conference. There were a few barren mountains in the surroundings. Other than that, there was an endless wasteland. There were no plants, no signs of life, and it was extremely dilapidated. However, in the center of the ruin there was an ancestral god spring. The stone pool was about 100 feet in radius. It looked extremely simple and unadorned. There was mottled aura above it. Inside the stone pool, a golden divine spring was flowing. It looked sparkling and translucent, just like nectar from the finest nectar. Ling Xiao could feel that the golden spring contained an incomparably vast amount of energy. This was the ancestral god spring left behind by the great emperors. The most fundamental energy could stimulate the bloodline of the god clan and increase the cultivation base of the god clan experts. There was even a chance that one could obtain the inheritance of the great emperors. It's really the ancestral god spring. Ling Xiao nodded and said, Son of God, please forgive me. In order to heal my injuries, Shan took part of the ancestral god spring and shared it with my junior brothers and sisters. It's Shan's fault for taking the ancestral god spring. Please punish me, Son of God. Shan suddenly knelt on one knee and said to Ling Xiao in a deep voice, Chapter 30-38. Ling Xiao was annoyed and amused at the same time. Tingshan, what's wrong with you? You were the ones who found the ancestral god spring. Even if you refined it, it's only right. If you don't refine it, are you waiting for the immortal clan to come in and take advantage of them? Then Ling Xiao glared at Tai Xian, whose eyes were shining. Ahem. Tai Xian was a little embarrassed. He coughed softly and kept silent. Ling Xiao was right. If the Tai Immortal Sect and the Heavenly Connecting Immortal Sect came in, Tingshan and the others would not be able to resist at all. Instead, they would be trapped and killed. At that time, the ancestral god spring would belong to Tai Xian. Speaking of which, the ancestral god spring was his treasure? At the thought of this, Tai Xian suddenly felt a heartache. He had lost another treasure. Lei Ling was a jinx. Godson, we don't deserve to use the ancestral god spring. Only you deserve to use it. You are the hope of the god clan. Tingshan looked at Ling Xiao fervently. If the immortal clan comes in, we will destroy the ancestral god spring before they come in. Tingshan's voice was sonorous and his eyes were filled with determination. The disciples of the old god cult were all the same. Their eyes were filled with determination, and there was no fear in them. They were not the most outstanding disciples of the old god cult, and were sent into the immortal demon cave as cannon fodder. However, their admiration for the god's son came from the bottom of their hearts. They believed that the god's son was the savior of the god clan. Therefore, when they saw the ancestral god spring, the first thing they thought of was Ling Xiao. If it were not for their high cultivation, they would not even enjoy a little bit of the ancestral god spring. Ling Xiao's heart trembled when he saw the looks of the disciples of the old god cult. It was as if something in his heart had been touched. To be honest, when Ling Xiao entered the immortal demon cave, he had thought of helping the 6 major divine sects to kill the immortal clan. However, he did not think much of the disciples of the 6 major divine sects. Even if some of them died, he would not care much. The only people he cared about were Wu Hen, Zhan Shen, and the other 10 people who had entered the hall with him. This was because they had all become Ling Xiao's most loyal followers. But now, looking at these people in front of him, he realized that their cultivation base wasn't high, and their aptitude couldn't compare to those heaven-defying monsters. However, their sincerity and loyalty to Ling Xiao were even more precious than the ancestral god spring. Who says you're not worthy? As far as I'm concerned, no one is more qualified than all of you to enjoy the ancestral god spring. All of you are the hope and seeds of the god race. If all of you die, what's the use of leaving me alive? Ling Xiao's voice was a little low, but it gradually became louder and louder. It was as if a flame was about to burst out from the depths of his heart. Ling Xiao's eyes were extremely calm as he stared deeply at the 36 disciples of the ancient god cult. It was as though he wanted to imprint all of them in his heart. Lord Son of God. Tingshan's eyes brimmed with tears as he looked at Ling Xiao emotionally. However, Ling Xiao stopped him. Now I order everyone to enter the ancestral god spring. Ling Xiao suddenly roared, his voice like thunder. Yes. Tingshan's body trembled as he roared. The 36 disciples of the ancient god cult roared at the same time. Tears welled up in their eyes as their bodies trembled. They were so emotional that they couldn't control themselves. How could they not desire the ancestral god spring? This was a supreme treasure left behind by the great emperor of the god race. Legend had it that it could transform one's body, increase one's cultivation base, purify one's bloodline, and obtain the inheritance. There were countless mysterious legends about it. The 6 major god religions had already run out of ancestral god springs. Even if there were some left, it was extremely rare, and was reserved for the saints and saintesses. They devoured. When they entered the immortal demon cave, they already knew that they were cannon fodder. However, they didn't feel any anger or dissatisfaction because they saw a new hope for the god race. Lord Son of God Lei Ling. Even if they encountered the ancestral god spring, the first thing they thought of was to leave it for Lord Son of God. As long as Lord Son of God refined the ancestral god spring, his cultivation base would increase by leaps and bounds, and he would be able to defeat everyone and walk out of the immortal demon cave unscathed. But now Lord Son of God had given up the ancestral god spring and given it to them. In the past, they had only admired and respected Lei Ling. Now their loyalty to Lei Ling had reached an unsurpassable level. Their hearts trembled as the thought of dying for someone who understood them welled up in their hearts. You are not cannon fodder. You are also the hope of the god race. Therefore, I will help you break the bloodline shackles and become a true god race. From today onwards, you will no longer be descendants of the god race. You will have a glorious and glorious name. God race. Ling Zhao's voice rang clearly in the ears of every old god religion disciple. God race. The eyes of the 36 disciples of the old god sect shone with dazzling light. How foreign, familiar, ancient, and glorious was this name. Although the 6 major god religions called themselves the god race, in the eyes of the immortals, they were just a group of descendants with a portion of the god race's bloodline. They couldn't be considered a true god race. The true god race might have disappeared long ago. But now, Ling Xiao was telling them that Ling Xiao would help them break the bloodline shackles and become a true god race? Their hearts were filled with disbelief, but at the same time, they were filled with endless confidence. Break the bloodline shackles? Can he really do it? Tai Xian looked at Ling Xiao in shock. His expression was complicated. If this news were to spread, it would probably cause an earthquake. The entire immortal realm would tremble. And if he heard this big secret, would he be silenced by Ling Xiao? Bang! Tai Xian decisively slapped himself on the forehead, sealing all his cultivation in an instant, and then fainted. The more he knew, the faster he would die. He had better be self-conscious and not know too many secrets. Otherwise, Ling Xiao would want to kill him. This fiend was really capable of doing anything. Ling Xiao was slightly surprised to see that Tai Xian had sealed his cultivation and knocked himself out. This kid had a bright future. Ling Xiao couldn't bear to kill him since he was so self-aware. Forget it. I'll let him live for now. Ling Xiao thought to himself. Rumble. Radiant light shone between Ling Xiao's eyebrows. In an instant, an ancient seal appeared in the sky, exuding an ancient and majestic aura. Vast god race luck gushed out from it, as if it was the supreme authority of the god race, controlling the life and death of billions of god race members. The god race seal had appeared. Chapter 30-39. The Divine Clan Seal was the ultimate authority of the divines. In ancient times, the Divine Clan Seal and the Cauldron of Creation were known as the 2 greatest treasures of the divines. However, after the war between the divines and the immortals, not only did the Cauldron of Creation shatter into countless pieces, but the Divine Clan Seal was also lost. In the end, Ling Xiao obtained the Divine Clan Seal's acknowledgement in the Chaos Ancient Land, and then came to the divines. Perhaps this was also his fate with the god race that had been predestined. Now Ling Xiao was prepared to use the Divine Clan Seal to break the bloodline shackles of the 36 old god cult disciples, allowing them to be reborn and undergo the ultimate transformation. Although the ancestral god spring was incomparably precious and contained vast amounts of origin energy that could raise the cultivation of divines, origin energy wasn't what Ling Xiao lacked the most at the moment. Ling Xiao was currently on the path of the fusion of 10,000 great Daos. He needed to obtain the fruits of 3,000 great Daos, gather them into one, and forge his own path. To Ling Xiao, the ancestral god spring was only able to raise his life origin, and wasn't of much help to him. However, it was different for the 36 old god cult disciples. The boundless ancestral god spring was enough for Ling Xiao to use the Divine Clan Seal to break the bloodline shackles for all of them and become true divines. This was their greatest fortune. As soon as the Divine Clan Seal appeared, the 36 divines led by Tung Shan all felt their blood boiling and their hearts throbbing. The Divine Clan Seal felt familiar, majestic, and mysterious to them. Fall! Ling Xiao roared, and the Divine Clan Seal descended with a rumble like a mountain. The Divine Clan Seal floated above the heads of the 36 divines. The fortune of the divines rose and connected with all of them as one. Mysterious lines seemed to appear above their heads. These were the lines of fate and karma. Those mysterious lines fused with the God Race mark, causing the God Race mark to shine brightly. Above the God Clan Seal, chaotic mist rose, as if a mysterious scene of the creation of heaven and earth had appeared. 12 ancient worlds rose, and in each world, There was an invincible phantom of an ancestral god. Rumble. Devour. The ancestral god spring began to boil. The golden ancestral god spring trembled violently and shone with dazzling light. Then, as if it had gained intelligence, it began to burrow into the bodies of the 36 people. With Tung Shan taking the lead, the auras of the 36 of them instantly began to surge. The ancestral divine spring poured into their bodies and began to refine their bodies, condense their meridians, and raise their aptitude. In the end, the ancestral divine spring converged into the divine bones on their chests like rivers flowing into a river. Boom, 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 their divine bones trembled violently. After absorbing the water from the divine spring, it was as if the earth that had been parched for a long time had encountered rain. Then they began to emit endless light. In an instant, it was as if 36 suns had broken through the darkness and soared into the sky. Their auras grew stronger and stronger, like volcanoes that were about to erupt, erupting with an extremely terrifying bloodline fluctuation. Wang. As if some kind of power in the unseen world had been triggered, tens of thousands of rays of dazzling divine light shone from their bodies. However, a mysterious black chain emerged. The black chains had shackled their bloodlines and divine bones, and they even extended to their birth horoscopes. With the existence of the black chain, their path to attaining the great emperor realm was sealed. Therefore, the divine clan had been incomparably weak for countless epochs. Those who could attain the great emperor realm could be counted on one hand. Those who had attained the great emperor realm by luck had all unintentionally broken through the bloodline shackles, and attained the great emperor realm through great opportunities and great fortune. However, their fates were not good. They were targeted by the immortal clan. Even the heavenspan great emperor, who was peerless in his generation and possessed the invincible momentum to slay great emperors, had condensed the 4 heavenspan immortal swords and given the divine clan hope of rising again. But in the end, the heavenspan great emperor still failed and fell. The immortal clan's power was definitely not as simple as it appeared on the surface. Break! Ling Xiao roared from the void. Boundless light bloomed from his body as he activated the divine clan seal with all his might. The power of the divine clan seal and the ancestral god spring merged as one. Borrowing the divine clan's powerful fortune, 36 pillars of fortune were instantly formed and poured into the bodies of Tung Shan and the others. Rumble! Their auras erupted like a volcano with a loud bang. The black chains around their bloodlines trembled violently under the impact of the pillar of fortune. They buzzed, and in the end, cracks appeared on them before they directly exploded. Ah, 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 ah. Boundless divine light gushed out from the bodies of the 36 divine clan experts. The divine bones in front of their chests were also extremely resplendent. It was as if the strength that had been accumulated for countless years had suddenly exploded, making each and every one of them feel carefree and unrestrained. They roared excitedly, their voices like thunder and shaking the heavens. The world that was about to be destroyed was trembling. Then Ling Xiao saw it. The majestic energy in the ancestral god spring was surging wildly into their bodies like 100 rivers returning to the current. They were like whales swallowing the sea, constantly devouring large amounts of origin energy. The immortal kings almost instantly broke through to the immortal supremacy realm, and continued to soar. The speed of this cultivation breakthrough was too fast. However, the biggest change was not their cultivation, but their essence, energy, and spirit. At this moment, the 36 of them were like 36 peerless divine swords that had been unsheathed, blooming with dazzling light. His body was tall and straight like a dragon. The aura in his body was as vast as the sea. The murderous aura around him was so condensed that it was almost tangible. His eyes were sharp, bright, and resplendent. His entire person was swept away, as if he had become a peerless genius. Good. From today onwards, their talent is probably no less than Zhan Chun and Wu Hen's. Ling Xiao exclaimed in his heart. His eyes were filled with incomparable relief. This was the divine clan that he had personally created. They were the strongest warriors of the divine clan. These people were originally the most ordinary disciples of the ancient god cult. After all, most of their cultivation had stagnated for a long time, and could not improve. This time they were selected to be cannon fodder. However, Ling Xiao gave them a chance to be reborn, and they did not disappoint Ling Xiao's expectations. After this transformation, whether it was their cultivation, spirit, or even battle prowess, all of them had undergone tremendous changes. Their loyalty to Ling Xiao had also reached the extreme. They were the 36 divine generals under Ling Xiao. Invincible divine generals. Chapter 30-40. Since you know that the heavenly sword diagram is in this stone tablet, why don't you take it? Ling Xiao asked calmly. Because I'm waiting for you. The Sword Heart Saint's gaze fell on Ling Xiao. Waiting for me. That's right. I can feel that the owner of the heavenly sword diagram is you. Only you can take it out. After all, the heavenly sword emperor is from the deity race. The Sword Heart Saint said slowly. So you intend to snatch the heavenly sword diagram from me? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he said with a faint smile. You can understand it that way. The battle between us should have started long ago. In the past you weren't my match, but now, you have the qualifications to do so. The Sword Heart Saint looked at Ling Xiao and did not hide the strong battle intent in his eyes as he said. Therefore, after comprehending for 3 days and 3 nights under the heaven-reaching stone tablet, I only managed to comprehend the sword intent of the heaven-reaching Great Emperor. If I lose, all the fragments will belong to you. If I win, not only will the immortal culling sword be mine, but the heavenly sword diagram will also be mine. The Sword Heart Saint's tone was very calm as if he was stating a fact. There was no anger or agitation in his voice. He was like a sword that was eternal and unperturbed. You are right. The battle between us should have started long ago. The winner will have everything, and the loser will die. Ling Xiao's eyes also revealed a trace of radiance. He could feel the terrifying sword intent around the Sword Heart Saint rising as if he was accumulating power, ready to explode with a shocking blow at any time. The Sword Heart Saint placed the Zhu immortal sword on his knees. He gently stroked the sword as if he was nurturing it. Although the Sword Heart Saint looked calm on the surface, the strong battle intent was almost gushing out. Are you treating me as a sword test? Ling Xiao sneered in his heart. He could vaguely see through the Sword Heart Saint's thoughts. The Sword Heart Saint's cultivation had reached the peak of the 3rd heaven of the immortal Lord realm. It seemed that he could enter the 4th heaven at any time. He was using Ling Xiao as a testing ground for his sword. He wanted to use Ling Xiao to hone his supreme sword Dao. Ling Xiao had previously felt that the Sword Heart Saint's sword might be a killing sword. After all, he had cultivated the Great Immortal Slaying Technique and the Great Immortal Trapping Technique of the Grandmaster the Arch. But now, the Sword Heart Saint's sword had a trace of vitality. Although it was weak, it was like the extreme yang giving birth to Yin. It contained a power that shook the heavens. Lei Ling, I hope you won't disappoint me. The Sword Heart Saint gently stroked the immortal extermination sword and slowly stood up. Rumble. A majestic sword intent rose from his body, like a smoke signal soaring into the sky, causing him to instantly become incomparably fierce, revealing his sharpness. As you wish, Ling Xiao said with a faint smile. The immortal slaughtering sword in his hand vibrated slightly. As he circulated the Great Immortal Slaughtering Technique, the immortal slaughtering sword shone brightly, causing Ling Xiao's body to release a supreme killing sword intent. The Sword Heart Saint and Ling Xiao's sword intent collided. It was like a battle of fate, causing the immortal slaying sword and the immortal slaughtering sword to release a resonant dragon roar at the same time. As if it had sensed the aura of Ling Xiao and the Sword Heart Saint. The huge sky-reaching steel also released a terrifying wave of energy. Kacha! A bolt of lightning bloomed, as if it had split the heavens and earth. The sky-reaching steel shook violently, and then released a boundless light. It turned into an ancient and huge void battleground in front of Ling Xiao and the Sword Heart Saint. It was as if billions of sword chi had gathered. The void battleground was fierce and domineering, enveloping Ling Xiao and the Sword Heart Saint. Above the void battleground, an ancient sword diagram spread out in a vast expanse of chaotic mist. Within the sword diagram, there were sword chi and sword intent surging. It turned into the earth, mountains and rivers, and gathered all the stars. It was like a picture of mountains and rivers, majestic and magnificent. However, The shocking sword intent contained within it caused everyone's body to tremble, and they felt their hearts palpitate endlessly. The winner will receive my inheritance. An ancient and mysterious voice sounded, as if it had passed through the long river of time, and reverberated above the void battleground. This was actually a battleground prepared for Ling Xiao and the Sword Heart Saint. It seems like the sky-reaching emperor had already expected this battle. The Sword Heart Saint said lightly, "Just nice. You and I will have a fair battle. The winner will naturally receive the sky-reaching sword diagram." Ling Xiao smiled faintly. They all recognized that the sword diagram floating in the void battleground was the sky-reaching sword diagram. The sky-reaching emperor's original intention was for them to step onto the void battleground and decide the winner and loser. Just as Ling Xiao and the Sword Heart Saint stepped onto the void battleground, an image of the void battleground appeared above the immortal demon cave. "Look, is that Lei Ling and the Sword Heart Saint? Sky-reaching sword diagram? That's the supreme inheritance of the sky-reaching emperor. Is the inheritor going to be decided between the two of them? This is going to be an earth-shattering battle. I wonder who will win." In the immortal demon cave, regardless of whether it was the deity tribe or the immortal tribe, everyone was shocked. They all looked at the void battleground, their eyes filled with shock as they discussed. Although they did not know where Ling Xiao and the Sword Heart Saint were, the scene in front of them had completely shocked them. This was the mighty power of the sky-reaching emperor. A huge projection had appeared, not only in the sky above the immortal demon cave, but even in the void outside the immortal demon cave. The projection of the void battleground had appeared. Everyone saw the figures of Ling Xiao and the Sword Heart Saint. Outside the immortal demon cave, the supreme elders of the 9 major immortal sects and the 6 major divine sects were engulfed. Even His Highness, the 9th Prince, had his eyes on the heaven-reaching battlefield. Especially the sect leader of the sky-reaching immortal sect, Ning Wuji and Gu Tongtian. Their gazes met in the void battleground, and sparks seemed to fly. "Gu Tongtian, I'm afraid that your deity's son will fall today. It's time for the sky-reaching sword diagram to return to the sky-reaching immortal sect." Ning Wuji said indifferently. Gu Tongtian said indifferently, "Isn't it too early to say that? The sky-reaching emperor is a member of the deity tribe. The sky-reaching sword diagram will naturally fall into the hands of the deity tribe. If the Sword Heart Saint dies, the sky-reaching immortal sect will suffer a great loss. The Sword Heart won't die. He's a once-in-a-billion sword Dao genius. He was born with the sword bone, and it's hard to find someone like him. He's dedicated his entire life to the sword. Not to mention Lei Ling, even Taiyuan is no match for him." Ning Wuji said with a smile. He was full of confidence in the Sword Heart. "Is that so? Then let's wait and see. Since the sky-reaching emperor arranged this projection, I'm sure he has his own reasons." Gu Tongtian said indifferently. As for the others, they all had strange looks on their faces. They didn't expect such a scene to happen in this immortal demon gathering. However, they didn't dare to say who would win this battle. After all, although Ling Zhao's cultivation wasn't as high as the Sword Heart Saint's, he was the deity's son. It was inevitable that he would receive preferential treatment from the sky-reaching emperor. After all, the void battleground and the projection were all created by the sky-reaching emperor. Is the sky-reaching sword diagram finally going to appear? The 9th Prince's gaze fell on the sky-reaching sword diagram. The light changed and became slightly brighter. "Your Highness, they don't understand that you are the destined owner of the sky-reaching sword diagram." Beside the immortal emperor's chariot, the white-haired elder in a Taoist robe smiled and said with certainty, "Destiny is changeable. It might not be on me. Let's wait and see who wins this battle." The 9th Prince said non-committally. Chapter 3041. Since you know that the heavenly sword diagram is in this stone tablet, why don't you take it? Ling Xiao asked calmly. "Because I'm waiting for you." The Sword Heart Saint's gaze fell on Ling Xiao. "Waiting for me?" "That's right. I can feel that the owner of the heavenly sword diagram is you. Only you can take it out. After all, the heavenly sword emperor is from the deity race." The Sword Heart Saint said slowly. So you intend to snatch the heavenly sword diagram from me? Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he said with a faint smile. You can understand it that way. The battle between us should have started long ago. In the past you weren't my match, but now you have the qualifications to do so. The Sword Heart Saint looked at Ling Xiao and did not hide the strong battle intent in his eyes as he said. Therefore, after comprehending for 3 days and 3 nights under the heaven-reaching stone tablet, I only managed to comprehend the sword intent of the heaven-reaching Great Emperor. If I lose, all the fragments will belong to you. If I win, not only will the immortal culling sword be mine, but the heavenly sword diagram will also be mine. The Sword Heart Saint's tone was very calm as if he was stating a fact. There was no anger or agitation in his voice. He was like a sword that was eternal and unperturbed. You are right. The battle between us should have started long ago. The winner will have everything, and the loser will die. Ling Zhao's eyes also revealed a trace of radiance. He could feel the terrifying sword intent around the Sword Heart Saint rising as if he was accumulating power, ready to explode with a shocking blow at any time. The Sword Heart Saint placed the Zhu immortal sword on his knees. He gently stroked the sword as if he was nurturing it. Although the Sword Heart Saint looked calm on the surface, the strong battle intent was almost gushing out. Are you treating me as a sword test? Ling Xiao sneered in his heart. He could vaguely see through the Sword Heart Saint's thoughts. The Sword Heart Saint's cultivation had reached the peak of the 3rd heaven of the immortal Lord realm. It seemed that he could enter the 4th heaven at any time. He was using Ling Xiao as a testing ground for his sword. He wanted to use Ling Xiao to hone his supreme sword Dao. Ling Xiao had previously felt that the Sword Heart Saint's sword might be a killing sword. After all, he had cultivated the Great Immortal Slaying Technique and the Great Immortal Trapping Technique of the Grandmaster the Arch. But now, the Sword Heart Saint's sword had a trace of vitality. Although it was weak, it was like the extreme yang giving birth to Yin. It contained a power that shook the heavens. Lei Ling, I hope you won't disappoint me. The Sword Heart Saint gently stroked the immortal extermination sword and slowly stood up. Rumble. A majestic sword intent rose from his body, like a smoke signal soaring into the sky, causing him to instantly become incomparably fierce, revealing his sharpness. As you wish. Ling Xiao smiled faintly as the immortal slaughtering sword in his hand vibrated slightly. As he circulated the Great Immortal Slaughtering Technique, the immortal slaughtering sword shone brightly, causing Ling Zhao's body to release a supreme killing sword intent. The Sword Heart Saint and Ling Zhao's sword intent collided. It was like a battle of fate, causing the immortal slaying sword and the immortal slaughtering sword to release a resonant dragon roar at the same time. As if it had sensed the aura of Ling Xiao and the Sword Heart Saint. The huge sky-reaching steel also released a terrifying wave of energy. Kacha! A bolt of lightning bloomed. As if it had split the heavens and earth. The sky-reaching steel shook violently, and then released a boundless light. It turned into an ancient and huge void battleground in front of Ling Xiao and the Sword Heart Saint. It was as if billions of sword chi had gathered. The void battleground was fierce and domineering, enveloping Ling Xiao and the Sword Heart Saint. Above the void battleground, an ancient sword diagram spread out in a vast expanse of chaotic mist. Within the sword diagram, there were sword chi and sword intent surging. It turned into the earth, mountains and rivers, and gathered all the stars. It was like a picture of mountains and rivers, majestic and magnificent. However, the shocking sword intent contained within it caused everyone's body to tremble, and they felt their hearts palpitate endlessly. The winner will receive my inheritance. An ancient and mysterious voice sounded, as if it had passed through the long river of time, and reverberated above the void battleground. This was actually a battleground prepared for Ling Xiao and the Sword Heart Saint. It seems like the sky-reaching emperor had already expected this battle. The Sword Heart Saint said lightly, "Just nice. You and I will have a fair battle. The winner will naturally receive the sky-reaching sword diagram." Ling Xiao smiled faintly. They all recognized that the sword diagram floating in the void battleground was the sky-reaching sword diagram. The sky-reaching emperor's original intention was for them to step onto the void battleground and decide the winner and loser. Just as Ling Xiao and the Sword Heart Saint stepped onto the void battleground, an image of the void battleground appeared above the immortal demon cave. Look, is that Lei Ling and the Sword Heart Saint? Sky-reaching sword diagram? That's the supreme inheritance of the sky-reaching emperor. Is the inheritor going to be decided between the two of them? This is going to be an earth-shattering battle. I wonder who will win. In the immortal demon cave, regardless of whether it was the deity tribe or the immortal tribe, everyone was shocked. They all looked at the void battleground, their eyes filled with shock as they discussed. Although they did not know where Ling Xiao and the Sword Heart Saint were, the scene in front of them had completely shocked them. This was the power of the sky-reaching emperor. A huge projection had actually appeared, not only in the sky above the immortal demon cave, but even in the void outside the immortal demon cave. The projection of the void battleground had appeared. Everyone saw the figures of Ling Xiao and the Sword Heart Saint. Outside the immortal demon cave, the supreme elders of the 9 major immortal sects and the 6 major immortal sects, and even the 9th prince, were all looking at the void battleground. Especially the sect leader of the sky-reaching immortal sect, Ning Wuji and Gu Tongtian. When their gazes met in the void battleground, it was as if sparks were flying. Gu Tongtian, I'm afraid that your god's son will fall today. It's time for the sky-reaching sword diagram to return to the sky-reaching immortal sect. Ning Wuji said lightly. Gu Tongtian said indifferently. Isn't it too early to say that? The sky-reaching emperor is a member of the deity tribe. The sky-reaching sword diagram will naturally fall into the hands of the deity tribe. If the Sword Heart Saint dies, the sky-reaching immortal sect will suffer a great loss. The Sword Heart won't die. He's a once-in-a-billion sword Dao genius. He was born with the sword bone. It's hard to find someone like him since ancient times. Not to mention Lei Ling, even Taiyuan is no match for him. Ning Wuji said with a faint smile. He was full of confidence in the Sword Heart. Is that so? Then let's wait and see. Since the sky-reaching emperor arranged the projection of this battle, I'm sure he has his reasons. Gu Tongtian said indifferently. As for the others, they all had strange looks on their faces. They had not expected such a scene to occur in this immortal demon gathering. However, they did not dare to say who would win or lose this battle. After all, although Ling Zhao's cultivation was not as high as the Sword Heart Saint, he had the deity tribe's fate chi. As the god's son, it was inevitable that he would receive preferential treatment from the sky-reaching emperor. After all, the void battleground and the projection in front of them were all created by the sky-reaching emperor. Is the sky-reaching sword diagram finally going to appear? The 9th prince's gaze fell on the sky-reaching sword diagram. The light changed and became slightly brighter. Your Highness, they don't understand that you are the destined owner of the sky-reaching sword diagram. Beside the immortal emperor's chariot, the white-haired elder in a Taoist robe smiled lightly and said with absolute certainty. Destiny is changeable. It may not be with me. Let's wait and see the outcome of this battle, the 9th prince said non-committally. Chapter 3042. Ling Xiao did not know that the battle between him and the Sword Heart Saint had already been projected to countless void worlds by the void battleground. He only had eyes for the Sword Heart Saint. The Sword Heart Saint's sword intense sword. It was as though he had transformed into an invincible sword that had swept through all the worlds. As the saying went, a swordsman was sharp. In the surrounding void, the sword radiance was blazing and surging like the sea. It enveloped Ling Xiao and formed a powerful sword realm. Although Ling Xiao and the Sword Heart Saint had not exchanged blows, their auras had already begun to clash. Ling Xiao stood in the void battleground, his blood essence surging like the sea. The primordial immortal body emitted purple light and purple chi, exuding an immortal and eternal aura. The chaotic divine bone in front of his chest was intertwined with the chaotic chi, providing him with supreme power. His eyes were bright and sharp, and a vast fist intent burst out from his body. It was fierce, majestic, domineering and majestic. He had not thrown out a punch, but it seemed as though the sky was filled with fist shadows. Rumble. The two powerful auras collided, intertwining with a powerful emperor's aura. It formed a powerful storm between Ling Xiao and the Sword Heart Saint, sweeping out in all directions and causing the void battleground to roar. Both Ling Xiao and the Sword Heart Saint could feel the strength of each other. So the battle intent in their eyes was incomparably strong. Although the Sword Heart Saint's physical body was not as strong as Ling Xiao's, he was a sword cultivator and could not compete with Ling Xiao's physical strength. A sword cultivator's most powerful weapon was the sword in his hand. Moreover, the Sword Heart Saint was holding the Zhu Immortal Sword. The Zhu Immortal Sword was a supreme emperor weapon and had resonated with the Sword Heart. It could erupt with the strongest power in his hand. Although Ling Xiao had the immortal culling sword and cultivated the great culling immortal art, he was definitely not as good as the Sword Heart Saint in terms of sword Dao. Ling Xiao was best at suppressing others with his aura and using his strength to break through all techniques. No matter how many techniques the opponent had, he would break them with a single punch. Therefore, the battle between Ling Xiao and the Sword Heart depended on whether Ling Xiao would shatter the Sword Heart's physical body first, or the Sword Heart would kill Ling Xiao first. This was a battle that attracted the attention of the entire world. Everyone could feel the strength of Ling Xiao and the Sword Heart Saint. Their eyes were filled with anticipation. Who would be crowned king in this battle? Boom! Ling Xiao and the Sword Heart Saint attacked almost at the same time. Their auras rose to the extreme, and the power in their bodies was about to erupt like a volcano. Ling Xiao punched out, while Jianxin stabbed out with his sword. This fist was the Immortal Destruction Fist. As he punched out, the energy around Ling Xiao surged. The origin energy seemed to have evolved into layers of ancient worlds, which were destroyed by this punch. As for Jianxin's sword, it was resplendent, bright, and as fast as lightning. It was as if nothing could stop this sword. No one could describe the style of that sword. No one could describe how fast that sword was. Time, space, heaven and earth, all things. Anything that stood in the way of this sword would be pierced through by this sword. Boom! A violent aura gushed out, and the void battlefield exploded violently. Ling Xiao's vast and majestic fist intent was actually pierced through by the Sword Heart Saint's sword. The sharp sword light pierced through the air, and pierced through Ling Xiao's fist. It directly pierced through his flesh, and came out from the cracks of his bones. Clang! On Ling Xiao's arm, there was a crystal-clear purple bone, which emitted an immortal luster. When it collided with the sword of execution, there was a sound of metal clashing. Ling Xiao's bones were so strong that even the sword of execution could not cut through them. However, the terrifying sword chi of execution surged over, and instantly flowed along Ling Xiao's arm and rushed into his body, wanting to destroy all his vitality. Kill! Ling Xiao's eyes were surging with fighting spirit. He suddenly roared, and it was like a thunderclap that shook the void. It was as if he did not feel the slightest pain. Fist will gushed out and pressed forward. The punch that had been pierced by Jianxin still blasted out across the sky, even causing the flesh and blood on his entire arm to explode into a bloody mist. Boom! Ling Xiao's remaining purple bone was filled with a tragic aura, and it suddenly collided with the Sword Heart Saint's arm that was holding the sword. The Sword Heart Saint's body shook, and a crisp sound came from his arm. It was instantly fractured, and his entire body was struck by an unparalleled divine force, and he flew backwards. The sword of execution buzzed and trembled. It was caught between Ling Xiao's bones, and there was no way for it to escape. Boom! Ling Xiao strode forward, and the surrounding aura was majestic. He stared at the Sword Heart Saint, and he did not care about the surging sword chi in his body. He punched out with both his fists. The Sword Heart Saint snorted. Although his face was slightly pale, his eyes became brighter and brighter. The battle between him and Ling Xiao was dangerous and tragic. With just one move, he had pierced through Ling Xiao's arm, and the flesh on Ling Xiao's arm was destroyed. However, Ling Xiao did not care about that sword and directly punched the Sword Heart Saint's arm, injuring it. Moreover, after Ling Xiao's fist gained momentum, it was followed by a storm-like attack. The violent fist intent swept across the void, as if it wanted to annihilate the Sword Heart Saint. He understood that Ling Xiao was playing to his strengths and avoiding his weaknesses. He wanted to fight him in close combat. Once he fell under Ling Xiao's supreme fist intent, he would be unable to use his sword. In the end, he would only be defeated by Ling Xiao. Swoosh! Immortal light rose under the Sword Heart Saint's feet, and the void was ethereal. He instantly used a teleportation technique, and appeared tens of thousands of feet away, widening the gap between him and Ling Xiao. Sword come. A cold shout exploded. The sword of execution that was originally stuck in Ling Xiao's arm suddenly shone brightly, and a surging and terrifying emperor's aura erupted, making it impossible for Ling Xiao to block the power of the sword of execution. The sword of execution instantly soared into the sky, and its speed was extremely fast. It turned into a long rainbow, and fell directly into the hands of the Sword Heart Saint. The Sword Heart Saint stood with the sword in his hand, and the sword intent around him instantly rose to the extreme. Billions of sword light gushed out, turning him into the Emperor of the Sword Way, commanding the heavens and destroying the universe. Sword Art of Execution. The Sword Heart Saint roared, and the sword of execution seemed to have become one with him, turning into a supreme sword light that pierced through the sky and slashed down towards Ling Xiao. There seemed to be some kind of power in the sword of execution that was activated, making the Sword Heart Saint's power more and more terrifying. Sword chi that could annihilate everything rose up in the surroundings, like a surging wave, sweeping over. Great sword of execution? But why did he say that it's the sword art of execution? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed, and his fists had already crossed the void, colliding with the sword intent that filled the sky. In an instant, an incomparably terrifying explosion occurred. But in Ling Xiao's eyes, the sword of execution was still dazzling, piercing towards his glabella, and the sword chi was extremely sharp. Third Sect Master. Chapter 3043. Clang. Ling Xiao's body also emitted the sound of a sword chime. The celestial culling sword appeared out of thin air. The celestial culling sword flew towards the celestial culling sword. The two peerless killing swords collided at this moment. Rumble. Unparalleled divine light gushed out as hundreds of millions of sword essences were annihilated at the same time. However, Ling Xiao felt a strong surge of energy that caused him to involuntarily fly backwards. Even the celestial culling sword in Ling Xiao's hand was buzzing. The Sword Heart Saint was imposing. His figure did not change as he held the celestial culling sword in his hand. His eyes were extremely sharp. Trapping sword technique. As he shouted, the sword radiance appeared again. This time, it was faster and more powerful. The sword essence in the sky surged as if it had split into tens of thousands of sword radiances in an instant. Every ray of sword radiance was real. They were connected to each other, and formed a vast sword formation that enveloped Ling Xiao. Clang! 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 The sound of a sword chime resounded through the void. Ling Xiao, who was in the middle of hundreds of millions of sword chi, held the sword in one hand and unleashed an unparalleled fist essence in the other to annihilate the surging sword radiances. However, the speed of the sword radiances was too fast. They continuously slashed Ling Xiao's body and tore his flesh apart. The wounds were so deep that his bones could be seen, revealing his bones that were surrounded by purple light. In an instant, Ling Xiao looked as if he had been dismembered. Countless wounds appeared all over his body. Seeing the fierce battle between Ling Xiao and the Sword Heart Saint, the spectators were in disbelief. The Sword Heart Saint is indeed an innate sword body. He has actually completely refined the celestial culling sword. He had just used the Great Celestial Culling Art and Great Celestial Trapping Art, right? I feel that even a 4th or 5th level Immortal Monarch expert would die without a doubt in the face of that surging and terrifying sword chi, right? That's right. I didn't expect their battle to be so intense. It has only been a few moves, but the Sword Heart Saint has already gained the upper hand. It seems like Lei Ling is going to lose. In the Celestial Demon Cave, many experts from the Celestial Tribe were discussing. Their eyes were filled with amazement. As for the disciples of the 6 divine sects, their eyes were filled with worry. Could the Son of God really create miracles? Jianxin? Such pure sword insight and such a sincere heart towards the sword Tao. If I encountered you in the past, it would probably be very difficult for me to defeat you. But now you're no match for me. Taiyuan slowly opened his eyes in a relic world. Yin and Yang Qi seemed to flow in his eyes. He looked at the battlefield in midair and his eyes flickered. His eyes were filled with an incomparably strong fighting spirit. As for Ling Xiao, he didn't even spare him a glance. In his opinion, Lei Ling was no match for the Sword Heart Saint. An ant-like character was not worth his time. Rumble. The annihilation sword intent that filled the sky shattered, and Ling Xiao was also sent flying. His body was badly mangled, revealing his sparkling purple bones. He seemed to be in a sorry state. Ha ha ha, this is great. However, Ling Xiao's eyes were extremely bright. He laughed aloud as his presence surged. His boundless life essence surged, and his body recovered very quickly. Although he seemed to be in a sorry state, he had only suffered superficial injuries. Unless one could really pierce through his heart and glabella, destroying his life essence and indestructible primordial spirit, it was impossible to cause him much harm. Ling Xiao's body contained boundless life essence, and he had reached the stage where he could be reborn from a single drop of blood. Superficial injuries were nothing to him. Moreover, even if the immortal slaying sword qi surged into his body and wreaked havoc, Ling Xiao would be able to refine the immortal slaying sword qi with the help of the heaven-devouring secret skill. Ling Xiao did not use his full strength. He just wanted to see what was so special about the Sword Heart Saint. In particular, what was the power that made his heart palpitate? Lei Ling, if you don't use your full strength, you won't have a chance. The Sword Heart Saint's sword essence rose and became more and more terrifying. His eyes were like lightning as he stared at Ling Xiao coldly. Is that so? Then let me see your strongest sword principle. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. Fistful rose around him, but the 15 fruits of the way between his eyebrows were as dazzling as the sun, emitting a power that made people tremble in fear. As you wish. Sword radiance rose in the Sword Heart Saint's eyes, and the immortal slaying sword in his hand trembled violently. Don't you want to know what my strongest sword principle is? Then let me tell you. The Sword Heart Saint's voice was like a sword, ringing loudly. The reason why I am more qualified than you to obtain the Heavenly Master Sword diagram is not because of my bloodline or race, but because my sword will one day surpass the Heavenly Master Emperor. The Sword Heart Saint's eyes shone with a dazzling radiance. That was a power called ambition or confidence. Killing symbol sword technique. Severing symbol sword technique. Following the Sword Heart Saint's 2 consecutive roars, the Extreme Emperor's aura in the immortal slaying sword in his hand completely erupted. The mighty sword qi rose, and in an instant, 2 rays of sword radiance cut across the void like 2 divine dragons, slashing towards Ling Xiao. A ray of killing sword qi. A ray of annihilation sword qi. And that ray of killing sword qi was exactly the same as Ling Xiao's Great Slaughter Immortal Art. You comprehended the Great Slaughter Immortal Art and the Great Ultimate Immortal Art by yourself? Ling Xiao's eyes shone brightly. He finally knew where the Sword Heart Saint's reliance came from. Although the Heavenly Master Immortal Sect only had the Great Slaughter Immortal Art and the Great Immortal Trapping Art, the Sword Heart Saint had relied on these 2 immortal arts to forcefully deduce the Great Slaughter Immortal Art and the Great Ultimate Immortal Art. This kind of aptitude was too heaven-defying. No. This is my killing symbol sword technique, not the Heavenly Master for Great Immortal Arts. The Sword Heart Saint's eyes were sharp, and the 2 rays of sword qi burst out, instantly engulfing Ling Xiao. Rumble. The sword qi rose, and the sword radiance seemed to have destroyed the boundless world. It contained an extreme killing aura, and it was extremely terrifying. The 2 rays of sword qi intertwined, and the power of the slaying immortal sword seemed to have become even more terrifying. The void battleground shook violently. If not for the fact that it was left behind by the Heavenly Master Emperor, it would have been completely destroyed. Crack. Ling Xiao's eyes shone brightly, and with a stroke of the void, the space shattered, and a vast passageway appeared, as if it led to the depths of the boundless world. Freeze! At the same time Ling Xiao roared. Suddenly, the river of time traversed across the void, enveloping the 2 rays of sword qi, and then sent them into the depths of the boundless world. The sharp and terrifying sword qi was instantly buried by the power of time and the river of time. You actually cultivated the space and time great Tao. The Sword Heart Saint's eyes shone brightly, and he revealed a trace of astonishment. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 3044. The Sword Heart Saint had always thought that Ling Xiao walked the path of Tao through strength. After all, Ling Xiao's physical body was extremely strong, and could even be called immortal. His bones could even compete with an extreme Tao Emperor weapon. Moreover, his fist intent was vast and he specialized in close combat. Even Ren Tianjue could not block one of his punches. However, he did not expect Ling Xiao to display the power of space and time in the blink of an eye. Space and time became extremely obedient in Ling Xiao's hands. He casually stopped the sword qi that filled the sky and buried it with the river of time. Then he completely dissolved it with the endless space. It was easy to say but extremely difficult to do. The Sword Heart Saint was sure that Ling Xiao's space and time Tao had comprehended the origin and condensed Tao fruit. In that case, Ling Xiao had condensed the time and space Tao fruit? Thinking of this, even the Sword Heart Saint could not help but feel envious. That was the time and space Tao fruit. Just the time and space Tao fruits were extremely precious. Many people could not comprehend the origin of the great Tao in their lifetime. However, the time and space Tao fruit was the combination of time and space. Both of them comprehended the origin of the great Tao, and at the final moment, they would condense into a Tao fruit and become an emperor. Even in the entire immortal world, no one had heard of anyone comprehending the time and space Tao fruit for countless years. Among the 3,000 great Taos, the time and space Tao is second only to the chaos, fate, karma, and reincarnation Tao. Am I being too high profile? Ling Xiao's eyes revealed a strange look. He suddenly felt that he should not reveal so many trump cards. The time and space Tao fruit had already shocked the Sword Heart Saint. If he revealed all 15 Tao fruits, would the Sword Heart Saint be scared to death? Moreover, Ling Xiao felt that the void battleground was a little unusual. It looked a little like a battle arena. Could there be others who could see it? Thinking of this, Ling Xiao felt that he could not reveal himself. Otherwise, if he attracted the hidden great emperors of the immortal world, he would really be finished. No matter what, there were immortal emperors in the immortal world. The immortal emperor of the eternal immortal dynasty was a genuine immortal emperor. Behind the 9 great immortal sects, there might be immortal emperors. After all, the immortal world was much stronger than the demon world. The demon world had 3 demon emperors. Space-time Tao fruit? Lei Ling, you've really hidden yourself well. Looks like I've underestimated you. However, only in this way can you be worthy of being my enemy. The Sword Heart Saint stared at Ling Xiao, his eyes filled with intense battle intent. Ling Xiao's strength not only made him feel no fear, but also made him feel extremely excited. Jianxin, since you know that I've condensed the space-time Tao fruit, you won't be a match for me if you don't take out your trump card. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. He was getting more and more curious. What was the ultimate power of the Sword Heart Saint? Lei Ling, as you wish. The Sword Heart Saint's eyes flickered with a sharp light as a terrifying energy fluctuation was released from his body. Rumble. With the immortal slaying sword in his hand, he instantly soared into the sky. The vast sword intent surged, causing his entire aura to skyrocket. The Sword Heart Saint was originally at the 3rd heaven of the immortal monarch realm. However, at this moment, he actually felt like he was about to break through the bottleneck and advance to the 4th heaven of the immortal monarch realm. Lei Ling, have a taste of my forward sword formation. As the Sword Heart Saint roared, his entire body split into 3 clones in the void. Together with his original body, each of them occupied one side of the void. Each of them exuded a kind of peerless sword intent. Sword intent of killing. Sword intent of massacre. Sword intent of sinking. Sword intent of extinction. He had actually used his own strength to form the supreme sword formation of the Heavenly Grandmaster Great Emperor, causing a terrifying energy fluctuation to erupt. Buzz. At this moment, even the Heavenly Grandmaster sword formation in the void seemed to have reacted and began to vibrate violently. This is the Qi into Trinity technique. Ling Xiao's eyes flickered as he recognized the technique that the Sword Heart Saint had used. It was actually a supreme celestial technique from the antiquity times that was about to be lost, the Qi into Trinity technique. The Qi into Trinity technique allowed the original body to create 3 avatars. These 3 avatars possessed almost all of the original body's combat strength. In this way, It was equivalent to the four-sword heart saint besieging Ling Xiao. So this was the sword heart saint's ultimate strength? The battle intent in Ling Xiao's eyes surged. That kind of powerful threat made the blood in his body start to boil. Ling Xiao's body trembled and radiated boundless light. His aura was terrifying to the extreme. When he opened his mouth, he swallowed the sun and the moon. He was like an ancient ancestor god who had created the world. Kill! Kill! Ling Xiao and the sword heart saint roared at the same time. Their gazes seemed to have materialized and caused dazzling lightning to erupt in the void. The four-sword heart saint released boundless sword essence and charged towards Ling Xiao. Kacha! Ling Xiao's fist essence surged and filled with chaotic light. His pure physical strength exploded, causing the power of his fist to reach the extreme. A huge fist print bloomed in the void. In an instant, it traversed the heavens and shattered the boundless sword chi. Then it pressed down on the sword heart saint. Ling Xiao's body began to expand. In an instant, he turned into a towering giant. His aura was terrifying to the extreme. Immortal and eternal light surrounded his body. Although it looked like he was surrounded by the sword heart saint, Ling Xiao had an invincible aura that seemed to want to kill his way up to the 9 heavens and destroy the universe. Kacha! The sword chi swept across 1,000,000 miles. One sword radiance chilled tens of thousands of miles. For beams of dazzling sword light shot towards Ling Xiao from all directions. Each beam of sword light was tens of thousands of feet long. They were extremely sharp and could destroy everything. However, the sword heart saint's speed was extremely fast. He struck from the sky and slashed down one sword after another. It was majestic and surging like a huge river. It was extremely terrifying. Countless figures of the sword heart saint appeared in the sky. That destructive sword essence made one feel incomparable despair. Puff! Bloody light filled the air. Ling Xiao's fist print and sword chi intertwined. Although his flesh was tough, it was still torn apart in an instant. Only his bones were left. Ling Xiao's bones were like purple glass. They were crystal clear and untainted by dust. Moreover, they contained an immortal radiance. When the sword chi collided with Ling Xiao's bones, there was a clear and melodious sound of metal clashing. Sword heart, your sword is indeed strong. However, you can't defeat me. Kill! Ling Xiao shouted indifferently. His eyes blazed as he took the initiative to charge towards the sword heart saint. Chapter 30-45. Rumble. When the battle reached its climax, Ling Xiao and the sword heart saint attacked fiercely, aiming for each other's vital points. Sword intent sword, turning the surroundings into a sea of sword chi. Every single strand of sword chi was capable of killing any expert below the high immortal realm. With millions upon millions of strands of sword chi intertwined, even high immortals would die instantly. There was no doubt about it. This was a domain of absolute death, and also a sea of swords. If it was any other immortal monarch realm expert, they would have lost all hope and would be swallowed by the sword heart saint's sword intent. However, Ling Xiao's fist intent was even more majestic. Although he did not reveal his 15 Dao fruits, his fist intent came from his primordial immortal body. It merged with the power of 10,000 Daos and formed the image of chaos. Although Ling Xiao didn't use the epic fist, every punch and every move contained the supreme destructive power of the Great Destruction. The fist intent and sword chi intertwined and eventually disappeared. Ling Xiao's entire body seemed to have turned into a purple ball of light as he continuously received the attacks of the four sword heart saints. Clang! 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 The flesh on Ling Xiao's fists had completely disappeared, leaving only the bones of his fists. His bones could withstand the immortal extermination sword, so the sword chi could not destroy them. Chaotic light bloomed on Ling Xiao's chest. That was the power of the chaotic divine bone. The chaotic divine bone protected his heart and life source. The space between Ling Xiao's eyebrows shone brilliantly. Not only was he protected by the wordless heavenly book, but he also had the support of the 15 Dao fruits. The heavenly devouring origin could devour everything. Even the sword chi of slaying, annihilation and extinction would be refined by the heavenly devouring origin, and become a part of Ling Xiao. Therefore, in the battle between Ling Xiao and the sword heart saint, Although Ling Xiao was covered in blood and was injured by the sword qi, in reality, Ling Xiao only suffered superficial wounds. Although the four sword heart saints' attacks were fierce, they could not cause any fatal injuries to Ling Xiao. Rumble. Ling Xiao and the sword heart saint were like dragons. Chaotic light surged around the void battleground, and it seemed as though an ancient world had been formed. The mountains and rivers were endless, and the earth was boundless. Ling Xiao and the sword heart saint charged into the ancient world from the void battleground. Mountains and rivers were overturned, and the earth sank with a wave of their hands. With a sweep of the sword qi, several tens of mountains were annihilated at the same time. As soon as the fist came out, billions of stars fell to the ground. That ancient world was quickly destroyed, but the void battleground evolved into another world. Ling Xiao and the sword heart saint seemed to be trapped in an endless world. However, their battle was not something that could be restrained by the layers of worlds. Sword qi and fist will continue to destroy one world after another. Ling Xiao and the sword heart saint were in a frenzy. The five figures were like five eternal and dazzling suns, constantly colliding with each other. The sword heart saint also seemed to have felt the strangeness of Ling Xiao's body. His heart was filled with shock, and his killing intent became even more intense. The sharp radiance of the four great sword principles intertwined and attacked Ling Xiao's chest and head continuously, like a violent dragon. The battle between Ling Xiao and the sword heart saint had completely shocked the spectators. In the immortal demon cave, regardless of whether it was the immortal tribe or the deity tribe, everyone had a look of incomparable awe. Although it was just a void projection, and although they could only see the scene of the void battleground, they had no doubt that if they were in the battlefield, they would probably die in an instant. Even Taiyuan, who was in the world of ruins, had a solemn and shocked look in his eyes. Qi into Trinity technique? This is the supreme inheritance of the Tai Yi immortal sect. How could the sword heart know it? Taiyuan's face was extremely ugly, and there was a trace of anger surging on his face. He had cultivated the Qi into Trinity technique before, and he had refined 3 doppelgangers, which were his trump cards. Therefore, when he saw the battle between Ling Xiao and the sword heart saint, he was confident that he could suppress the sword heart saint. But now he was shocked and angry. It was an extremely complicated feeling. The 3 clones created by his 1 Qi into 3 purities technique were only able to unleash 80% of his original strength. However, the sword heart saint had learned the Qi into Trinity technique from somewhere, and the doppelgangers had 100% of his original strength. Now, the Taiyuan saint did not have much confidence in facing the sword heart. Not to mention Lei Ling, who he did not take seriously at all. Lei Ling had just broken through to the immortal Lord realm, and his cultivation was only at the first heaven of the immortal Lord realm. But now, Lei Ling had displayed an incomparably heaven-defying battle strength. Even when fighting against the 4-sword heart saint, he was not at a disadvantage. Lei Ling? Sword heart? All of you must die. The Taiyuan saint's eyes were filled with intense killing intent, and he felt a strong threat. Outside the immortal demon cave, many elders of the 9 major immortal sects and the 6 major divine sects were also shocked by the brutality of this battle. However, Tai Qingzi of the Tai Yi immortal sect looked at Ning Wuji and said indifferently, "Sect leader Ning, can you explain where the sword heart saint's Qi into Trinity technique came from?" Although his voice was indifferent, many people could hear the coldness in it. After all, the Qi into Trinity technique was the supreme inheritance of the Tai Yi immortal sect. Only a few people in the Tai Yi immortal sect were qualified to cultivate it. But now, the sword heart saint of the heaven-piercing immortal sect had cultivated the Qi into Trinity technique. This was a slap to the Tai Yi immortal sect's face. Brother Tai Qingzi, I'm not sure either. However, the sword heart saint did not know the Qi into Trinity technique before. I'm guessing that he must have obtained some inheritance in the immortal demon cave and learned it. After all, there are countless inheritances in the immortal demon cave, and only the capable can obtain them. Ning Wuji said with a wry smile. I hope so, Tai Qingzi said, looking deeply at Ning Wuji. After all, he had no evidence to prove that the sword heart saint's Qi into Trinity technique came from the Tai Yi immortal sect. Perhaps the Sword Heart Saint really did obtain the inheritance in the immortal demon cave. Tai Qingzi noted it down and did not delve into it. Brother Tai Qingzi, this Lei Ling has condensed the space-time Dao fruit. This is the space-time Great Dao, ranked 5th among the 3,000 Great Daos. If we don't get rid of him, he will become a threat to our sect. Ning Wuji's eyes flashed as he said indifferently, Space-time Dao fruit? Does sect leader Ning think that the Sword Heart Saint will be defeated by Lei Ling? Tai Qingzi said indifferently. Third sect leader, you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.